Hello, good morning, and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And this morning on Newsfile, we speak about a certain local rice glut. Glut where? Obviously not in the market. The farm gate. How does that happen? And why is that so? We're told that some 650,000 tons of rice have been harvested, thanks to the new agricultural program by the government. But why the present circumstance? The Auditor General, is he being persecuted by IOCO for taking on government, particularly the senior minister and the NHIA? We will also ask questions about the 17 December referendum. Will it be? And will it be yes or no? I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And my take, books win corruption fight in Ghana. Government has put 12.2 billion cedis in our pockets between 2017 and now. Never mind that this, in fact, is money we gave to government, or loans taken on account of our tax. The finance minister just explained this was money spent on various projects to benefit citizens. More than this amount, some 13 billion cedis, was spent on the banking sector cleanup. I hope I understood the minister. This could have been avoided if people blew the whistle on the alleged regulatory breaches that officers of the central bank superintended to cost the taxpayer so much. Imagine if citizens were educated that the whistleblowers law guarantees them 10% of money recovered or substantial financial reward upon the successful prosecution of corrupt people and public officers fleecing the country. We have spent a couple of years begging China for $2 billion. We will pay for. This brings excitement that it will be used to transform Ghana's infrastructure. But it is estimated that the country loses $3 billion each year to grand corruption. That's twice the aid money we get. So this country can do far better and without borrowing. Citizens in Tamale were extremely excited when the NCC took a rare whistleblowing awareness campaign to them this week. They had their suspicion that very little is heard of this law because, as they say, if you want to hide something from the Ghanaian, put it in a book. This law establishes 18 different avenues, including IOCO, BNI, the police, SHRAJ, heads of institutions, religious leaders, chiefs, and district assemblies for citizens to report impropriety and corruption. They were not excited when I disclosed that the 2006 law requires the establishment of a whistleblowers reward fund, which has not been put in place. There don't appear to be any plans to put it in place. It is out of this fund that one may get the 10% reward and refund of expenses he makes in exposing corruption. If you blew the whistle and got victimized, harassed, mistreated, or dismissed at work, you simply report to SHRAD and you will get justice. You will get your job back. You will get compensated. And you and your family will receive state protection if your security is threatened. Yes, after 2 decades of campaign, the RTI law was passed, but curiously suspended to commence operation next year. This is another book that wins the corruption fight. But a couple of months to 2020, and there is no word about the implementing agency, the RTI Commission, established by the law, and almost all items on a roadmap for a smooth takeoff have been missed. Ghana has many fine anti-corruption laws, including one that has no history of application, even though it recovers 3 times the money stolen from the states, plus a possible 10 years in jail. That's the Government Contracts Protection Act, 1979. The procurement law and another recent book, the Special Prosecutors Law, have all won the corruption fight, but on paper. Laws don't work by themselves. Enough of the book corruption victories. Enough of the grandstanding lip service fight against the nation-wrecking graft and sleaze. That's my take. Thank you for your attention. And my guests are seated. Let's get to meet them, and then we get the show on the way. And for the very first segment, we will be talking about the rice glut. And as you know, it's not glut in the market. It does appear it's glut on the farm gates. So why is that, and what exactly is new about this development? Welcome my guests, Yao Edupoku, agro-processor and a farmer. Good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning, Samson.
Also here in the studio, Felix Kwachi Ofosu, former Deputy Communications Minister, and Alexander AFENYO-MARKIN-MP Efutu. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to Newsfile. Right. So, as I started by way of introduction, we understand from the government through the Minister for Agriculture that 650,000 tons of rice has been harvested thanks to the Planting for Food and Jobs. So what exactly is the problem that we currently face? As we know also, ministers like the senior minister, Yao Safomafo, have stated how rice imports could actually destroy our economy. I'll share the startling figures with you shortly. But let's begin with the rice farmer, the man who is right there and knows what exactly is going on. So we have been reading and we have seen video footages by way of news, how terrible the situation appears to be. We have seen people on the farms and we have seen sacks of rice, huge, sitting on the farms. And we've heard, for example, the Upper East Regional Minister suggest that whilst there's no place to, preserve them for now, they have about 2 silos that are almost ready, and they are hoping that they can get them ready in good time so they can be, storage for the rice. But the farmers are complaining that nobody is buying. What's going on?
Good morning to the viewers. Good morning to fellow panelists. It is true that there has been a hue and cry this past week over the seemingly rice glut at the farm gate, which cannot be felt at the consumer level. It is simple. Ghana is a one-season farming nation. Apart from the irrigation facilities that can do 2 or 3 seasons within a year. So when the harvest season comes, everybody is in a hurry to harvest their crops. And this is what is happening exactly. Thanks to the current program of the PFJ, that is Planting for Food and Jobs, and the subsidy which has been given to farmers in inputs supply, farmers have really taken the minister's word and had gone into big-time farming. The harvest is in. This is the end to the farmer. He has harvested. Now it is our turn, the aggregators and the millers, to lift the products from the farm gate, which we have been doing over the years. Now, why is this situation now? Simple. The financial institutions have closed their doors to the agro-processing sector and aggregation. They've closed their doors. No bank is giving a facility to, for example, me or my colleagues. So we are finding it difficult to go to the farmer and pick from the farm gate. In fact, as I sit here, a lot of farmers, they keep on calling me from 4 a.m. to sometimes 11 p.m. Mr. Poku, just come and take it off our hands. Why are they saying that? Because the Harmattan is just about to begin. And rice or paddy is a sensitive crop. It's not like other cereals. When the Harmattan comes in, price goes down because the moisture level in the paddy dries up completely. So the farmer does not want the paddy to be sitting on his hands. Okay. And we are also finding it difficult to raise finance to go and buy from the farmer. So they are even willing to give us credit. But the logistics will not take credit. And so this is where we are. I wouldn't say Cat-22, but we are almost there. We don't have the money to lift the products from the farm gates. And so most of the mailing establishments are not working. This is the situation we find ourselves in. I have been in Accra for the last couple of weeks. I am stationed in New Longro, that is Kintampo North in the Bono East region. And I've moved my camp to Accra, walking from bank to bank to bank to bank. And the result is 0. So this is why you see the hue and cry all over. It's not peculiar to the north, no. Down south, go through Akuse, Asuchari, all the way to Sugakofe, Aveime. The same story. You take the central region, same story. So what we need to do is to look at the approach properly, that when the harvest comes, somehow there should be financing so that we take off the stress from the farmer. This is where we are.
I don't understand. This is a country where we spend in excess of $130 billion to import rice in a year. And you're saying that you are not getting the needed support, particularly from the banks. Is that really all that you require?
No. We are importing, according to the ministry, about $1.6 billion. As I said, I know the figures are higher than that. But this is the statistics that we have. And this money can translate into the farmer and the miller. It is not happening. Why? Because the banks find it more easy giving that kind of money to the importer, because the turnaround is quicker than as the millers and the farmers, and they can absorb the interest charges that will be put on the money that they take. So here we are, not a level playing field, and that is what we are seeing. Apart from that, when the Harmattan comes, we all panic. When I take more rice, I get into trouble. And I'm a victim. Last year, I lost about 1.8 million cedis, money that I did not have, but I lost it because of the Hamatan. Why? I don't have storage. And storage is not warehouse for rice. It's not warehouse. Storage for rice is silo, where there is a control environment.
And the government is building the silos, right?
I know government is doing warehouses.
Warehouses.
Yes, which is totally different from silo. Silos are those long, thin accoutrements. And we have taken it upon ourselves, that is the Rice Millers Association, to start thinking about silo. We have even gone to the level of talking to some people in the US to see if we can latch on into the US Exim Bank facility, and they have given us a go-ahead. So we are about to talk to Ghana Exim Bank on that.
So is it really a question of the turnaround time that the banks look at for, as it were, you put it, supporting importation rather than growing and milling right here? Or it is about the fact that about 1.17 million metric tons of rice is estimated to be consumed by us.
Sorry.
Only about 20% of Ghanaians, particularly in the urban, areas, consume your type of rice.
Yes, sir. The turnabout time that you're talking about is real. The banks will ask you, do you have an institutional buyer? They are not ready to take guarantee from the open market because they are banks. And that is where we sell our rice, not to institutions. We sell it on the open market. And so we are at variance here. We need to bridge that gap, and we're finding it difficult. We don't know how to go over this. Now, talking about the rice consumption. Yes. Last year, we produced about 411,000 metric tons. They all find their way into the local tables. This year, it's estimated as 650,000. I think the number will be higher than that because this time the fertilizer went to the farmers. And because of the brigade of the national, what do we call it?
NAPCO.
NAPCO. So we have a lot of our extension officers on the ground. And so a lot of the farmers had training, and there we had AGRA and also GIZ coming in to train farmers. This is why we have such a good harvest this year. The point is that consumption is around 1 million metric tons. That is milled rice.
You spoke about the institutional bias. That's what the banks prefer because that's an easier way to deal with. We understand that you have some 20 rice importers, importing companies in this country who have agreed to buy from the local producers and millers. So is that not good enough to take what you have on the farm gate?
We are currently working on it. I am one of the conveners. The ministry started this program because it saw that it is affecting the PFJ program. And so they needed to get a way out of it. So they called the importers together, the big ones. They are bringing in about 650,000 metric tons every year. So the ministry talked to them. And the outcome was that let's call the other stakeholders. So the millers were invited. We are the anchor of the farmers. We are the anchor of the aggregator. So we were called into the meeting. We have done about a couple of meetings. The next one is next Wednesday. And what we are deliberating upon is that, look, give us just about 15–20% of your import bill. And that will be enough to take care of what we are producing. Their fear is that, can we meet the quality that they are used to? I will tell you, yes. Gone are the days.
The question is really about the quality, isn't it?
It is not. It is absolutely not.
Okay, so tell us.
Rice mill is a rice mill. It's a rice mill. We have also brought in the same rice mills that you find in Vietnam, Thailand, and China. Same. And what is a rice mill? A cleaner, a destoner, a huller, a polisher. These are the things that makes the rice. And we have brought all this across board. We have about 2 tiers. We have the what we call the Nika rice mill. That is the 500 kilo, 1 ton a day, which is dotted all over the countryside. And then we have the 2 ton to 5 ton a day, an hour rice millers. These have sophisticated machinery. And what we produce is actually better than what is imported. So the question does not arise. The perception out there is that Ghana rice is not well produced. So you eat stone and you eat sand. That is yesterday. We don't have it anymore.
Do you really think that you have done enough to get people to know about the fact that the local rice, the pebble, you know, white and brown, have higher nutritional qualities and should you know, be good for anybody to want to have? Do you think you have done enough about that?
No, the honest truth is no, we haven't. We haven't because the resources are not actually there. So it makes it difficult for us. And so we are working in the shadows. That is what I would say.
You need only 15% of what they spend on their imports. Only 15%.
15 to 20%, and we are okay.
So there's no progress in that regard?
So far, so good. We've been talking, and the importers seem to be ready for this. Next Wednesday, we are meeting again. And this time, we want to put it in an MOU that we are supplying you this. This is what the minister is saying.
Okay.
In fact, what I heard is that the minister is saying without a collaboration between the two functions, no import license is going to give it.
Okay.
So we are not saying that the importers should not bring, because we are not in a position to swamp the market with Ghana-made rice. There will be a gap. But what we are saying is that for the 650,000 metric tons, it translates to about just under 400,000 metric tons of milled rice. And this, when we put to the 650,000 that is coming in, is enough for the local consumption. So if they give us 20% of their 650,000, that's about 120, 130,000 metric tons. That is enough for us because our capacity is just about that.
Right. Okay. So, Felix.
Yes, I'm saying.
You listen to him, and obviously their capacity is low. We consume so much. And yet, even the little that they are able to produce, and like he says, they need between 15, 20% of what is spent, you know, to survive and to keep the business going. Why are we here?
Well, it is fair to say that in the last few weeks, there has been an upsurge in the marketing of locally produced rice. A number of media organizations have taken it upon themselves, including yours, I believe, to promote locally produced rice and encourage its consumption. And it has caught on. At the very least, the substantial awareness has been created about the matter, and everywhere you pass, social media, traditional media, it's created quite some buzz, which is good, it's healthy. But whereas the latest fervor is refreshing, the underlying conversation is not new. The narrative is not new at all. We've had this conversation over and over and over and over again. I recall that when I was in government, it was one of the things that we used to talk about a lot. You recall that in the 2014 State of the Nation address, at the time when we were having some challenges with the city, President Mahama made the point that there were 5 items that we imported, which we had no business importing because we have capacity, we have arable land, and we have what it takes to produce it. Perhaps what has been lacking is the sort of support that is needed to ensure that rice, tomato, sugar, vegetable oil, and poultry. We try to put in a number of measures. The
rice is second most important cereal.
Absolutely.
After corn.
Corn, yes. Maize. But we do quite well in maize production. I recall that when we were in power, at some point, we supplied the World Food Program with about 100,000 metric tons of maize to supply to some famine-stricken countries. So some effort has been ongoing. It's also important to put the discussion in proper perspective so that we know exactly where we are and we do not pat ourselves on the back and be complacent. I've heard claims that rice production has gone up suddenly because of the planting for foods and jobs, and they are mentioning 650,000 metric tons.
Yes,
harvested. But you see, that figure is rather disappointing. If all that PFJ has achieved is that figure, then it's disappointing because as of 2014, we were doing about 604,000 metric tons of locally produced rice. That was an increase from 301,000 metric tons in 2008. So if between 2014 and now, the only increase we can boast off is under 46 or 47,000 metric tons, then we have not done as much as we should. What it means is that something has been lagging. So it's important that we don't throw about figures and pat ourselves on the back when progress has been excruciatingly slow. I don't think that if this is being touted as an outcome of the planting for food and job, then we are doing much. But there's a lot that.
So from what is being done with the planting for food and jobs, the good news should have been
we should have been hitting about 1 million metric tons.
Doubling or even
exactly. Then we can heave a sigh of relief and say that we are doing something right. Now you speak about a glut, which means that even though they have produced this quantity of rice, they are having difficulty convincing the Ghanaian consumer to consume it so that they will have a ready market to market their goods. I heard somewhere during the week.
If you, I don't know if I got him correctly, it's not really about first convincing the Ghanaian consumer, but getting it out of the farm gates.
Yeah, but again, so if you have planting for foods and jobs, you supply farming inputs to farmers, and then after they have produced, you are unable. You are unable to get or convey the produce from the farm gates to the market. Then you have a problem. It means that the intervention is not far-reaching enough because you need a whole chain of activities to be able to start from planting to harvesting to marketing. Okay. So it is absolutely imperative that we get that right. But you see, it will not happen overnight. We need to take some deliberate steps in order to ensure that this is achieved. First of all, I'm not one of those who believes that we should shut our borders to rice imports as a way of encouraging local production of rice. That is protectionism, and we are a relatively small economy. And if countries who are affected by that measure decide to retaliate, it could create a difficulty for us. We may not survive it. What I believe we should do is to position our farmers to be very competitive so that what they produce can compete with rice imported from anywhere. Now, to be able to achieve that, we need to lower the production cost for them. So that after they've planted, they've harvested, they've polished it and done all of that, the prices at which they sell the rice will be competitive. So that if you go to a shop today and you went to the store and found rice produced in Ghana or one produced from Thailand, the only difference will be your taste. Okay. In terms of price, in terms of packaging, in terms of quality, it is high up there. So what incentive is there to go and eat rice imported from Thailand? The other issue is that they also need to do something about the quality, because we live in a competitive environment. Consumer behavior is dictated by.
You spoke about that as being a major concern for the importers.
Yes. So what we need to do is to put a lot more money into enhancing the quality, so that it can be destoned, it can be milled. If it is perfume that needs to be applied, even if it is brown rice, it ought to be done in a manner that meets certain specifications. That way, you don't leave the consumer any choice than to purchase it, because the price is competitive, the quality is also good. Indeed, I have been to Nigeria and eaten rice made in Nigeria. Well, of course, you can argue that they don't allow rice imports. But the quality of the rice in Nigeria is quite below the standard of what is imported. And yet, they consume it faithfully. I know of stories where Nigerians travel, they are served with rice from other countries and they refuse because they think that it is not compatible with the position that they've taken to market their own rice. So that needs to happen. Yeah. Again,
I just wanted the figures about the rice and the improvements in, the harvesting, how much we have been able to do. Can you share with us? He has the Ministry of Agric, how they have
you can mention them
through a chart, how we have
over
done the period, and it does appear in 2016 we did a lot better, than we may have done over a certain period. Yes. So what do the figures say?
The figures begins from 2008 to 2008 in a 10-year period span.
Right.
In 2008, we have 181 milled rice from local sources and 395,000 metric tons imported. And then it goes to 2009, 235,000 metric tons for local and 384 for imported. 2010, 295,000 for local and 320,000 metric tons for imported. 2011, 278,000 metric tons for local and 543,000 for imported rice. 2012, we went to 289,000 metric tons for local milled and 509,000 metric tons for imported rice. 2013, we have 342,000 metric tons milled locally and 644,000 imported. 2014, we have 362,000 milled locally and 414 imported. 2015, we have 385,000 metric tons milled and 620,000 imported. And then 2016, we have 413,000 milled and 698,000 imported. 2017, 433,000 metric tons was milled locally and 656,000 metric tons was imported. And then 2018, that's last year, we milled 461,000 metric tons and 611,000 metric tons was imported.
Okay. So
We have the production figures.
When the minister talks about 650,000 harvested, is that the same as milled?
No. At all. What the minister put across is that as at now, 650,000 has been harvested.
Okay.
A lot more, about, let's say, 30–40% more had to be harvested. So the figure is going to go, we are estimating about 1 million metric tons for this year alone.
And out of that number, how much of that?
60% is milled.
60%?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it balances the point I'm making. That the progress.
No, your focus was on the production.
Yeah, but that is what we ought to look at.
Yeah. So let's deal with it.
The million bit is a gap that we need to fill, and it goes to the heart of the submission I'm making.
Okay.
That if we want to make real progress, then we need to do far more than just patting ourselves on the back on some minimal achievements.
Okay.
So yeah, go ahead.
All right. So Felix has also been talking about what he feels and he thinks from what he knows that we can do to improve the situation. What do you say, Alex?
Well, first of all, thanks to Mr. Edupoko, benefit of his being here. At least the figures are out there. But at least it's clear that efforts by government to improve on rice production is yielding results. 2, intervention such as the recruitment of unemployed, people around for the NAPCO thing is also really helping. It's not coming from a politician. These are facts that they've been training farmers, and we are seeing a corresponding effect in terms of the harvest. And I'm happy that in real terms, we're talking about almost 1 million in terms of harvest by end of year. If you compare, we've never achieved this, before. So, in real terms, government backed its words with action, and we are seeing the results. Yes, I agree with your point on the processing.
Point now is, what do we do with the results?
Yes, so that's the next stage I'm coming to. I agree with you. Processing. Fortunately, although I'm a politician, my day-to-day life is entrepreneurship. And I face the same challenge. Sometimes you see how the focus of our banks, how we would want to get access and we're not getting access. But they also have their strong points. There are good reasons for sometimes saying no. I'm happy that you talked about coming together to access the EXIM facility. I'm sure that the commitment of the minister, like withholding import licenses and say, look, let's get this thing done. Let's not go on and on and on. But let's at least take the next step, the processing, give you access so that we get the rice to the market. At least that effort is being there and you are testing to it. So we keep doing it. Felix made a good point on this, the need for local consumption. what the media has done so far. Kudos to you, the media. I mean, it's positive. No one can do it better than what we ourselves can do. Rice production, although we cannot, of course, cover the entire market, we'll still need to have some import. But from what the agro-processor is saying, the issue of sand and stones are things of the past.
You say we'll still need some import, but it does appear we'll need import that is more than half what they can give. Is that not the case?
Yes,
you cannot supply up to half what we
but
consume.
At least, Samson,
we are getting there.
The percentage that you can supply is about how much?
About half of what is consumed.
About half
of what is
okay.
consumed.
So, Samson, my point here is that we shouldn't let whatever they produce go waste. A farmer should not suffer. The first stage is that increase production. You've had the opportunity to increase production. You've had the opportunity of harvesting more. Now, you shouldn't have it at your farm gate.
Exactly.
It should be out there so that you feel the gains in your pocket.
Because the program and policy is planting for food
and jobs.
For food. So we need to eat it.
Yes.
We need to consume.
Yes, but the farmer must also feel it.
Exactly.
After producing, there should be. It should reflect in my pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
That's true.
After enjoying free SHS, you need something in your pocket.
It is when we consume. It is when we consume that they get the money.
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying that after, if the farmer is enjoying free SHS, he still needs some money to make savings for university. He needs money to build a house. He needs money to take care of himself. I mean, this is true. It's not politics here. So I agree with you that the next stage of this whole policy is the processing, the milling. You gave us the figures. So I'm happy you're coordinating with the ministry. There's that collaboration. Dr. Akoto Afriye is an experienced person in that field. He himself, that is his field. So he knows what he's doing. And so far, everything he has said, everything he has put in place has yielded results. Nobody is doubting that. So let's keep getting on with this. I'm sure Exim Ghana is listening to us and would readily make available facilities to support processing.
Let's listen to the minister himself, Afriye Akoto, Akoto Owusu-Afriye. Let's listen to him, Dr. Akoto Owusu-Afriye. Okay, we will listen to him shortly. He's got something to say about what his ministry is doing, and okay, let's listen to him now.
What we can do is to engage the importers of rice. At the moment, we are in communication with the 20 biggest importers of rice in this country. We've had 3 meetings with them. And we are telling them that the time is going to come very soon when they cannot do that business and give rice farmers in Thailand and Vietnam and America the opportunity over our own. Because now our farmers were asleep because of lack of government support. The Kufuor has come determined that he's going to help farmers in Ghana to take their rightful place. And they are taking their rightful place. And therefore, if you want to import rice into this country, it means that you are taking away bread from the mouth of the Ghanaian farmer and giving it to Thailand. And they understand that. And we said, we are a party for the private sector. We are not here to destroy your business. But we are saying that over 2 years, 3 years, let's work on an arrangement where you buy from local millers. And they understand that. I mean, initially they were very scared. You know that in this country, any primary food that you import, I, the Minister for Food and Agriculture, have to give a permit. Even before you go to the bank to seek your finance, you have to come here to apply for a permit for rice, for chicken, for whatever food that you want to import. That regulation has been ignored because there was no alternative. In this country, agriculture was dead. Under the NDC, rate of growth, annual rate of growth for agriculture declined from 7.8 that they inherited from Kufuor. By the time they left, it was only 2.9%. So obviously, imports had to come in to fill the gap. But we are saying that now we are helping the farmers. Farmers are producing. So it will come a time that you cannot import.
Cultivated about 875 acres as a farmer. In all, about 1 million plus that I've invested into the farming. As I'm talking to you, I've not yet sold one single bag of my rice because I don't agree to sell my rice 3 bags for 2. I will never do it. I said to myself that if I produce and go and share it to the needy, it will be better than giving it away.
I have harvested about 150, and then the rest 150 is still sitting there. In fact, I have a breakdown of a combined harvester, which we don't have any part in the country. Anything that is breakdown, you have to send it to China. You have to import it from China. Before it reaches, the rice have gone bad. So now either I'll get somebody to be hired to continue, or finally fire will have to come and harvest it.
The missing link is that we address problems in silos. Agriculture is a system, and we don't have a systemic approach. So the mechanism for increasing output seems to be a reasonable response, good response. There's no functioning warehousing system, and there is no solution to markets.
We have realized that for over the years they have been relying on just one major off-taker, and we are going to unleash our license buying companies to come down here immediately and mop up the excess grains that they have here or paddy that they have here, so that they can take them to nearby mills, mill them and supply to government institutions around. We are tasked with the responsibility to reduce post-harvest loss, and the tool that we would use to reduce post-harvest loss or to eradicate it is the enabling environment to keep these stocks for government use and for food security, long-term use. We have also identified government silos of the defunct Food Distribution Corporation. We have gone around the whole country. We have identified them, and today some people are in talks with the Honorable Minister, Food and Agriculture, to come down and rehabilitate these silos.
Right, so you heard the Agric Minister, you also heard some farmers, very, very, very disturbing stories there. And then you heard the CEO of the National Food Buffer Stock Company, Hanan Abdul Wahab. And let me come to you, Mr. Dupuku. Why do you think the buffer, stock, they are talking about what they want to do now? What happened? Is it that the farmers and you guys have not been working in collaboration, in concert, that suddenly now that things appear to be going, bad, that they are now coming in and they are now identifying what has to be done? He says they have identified some silos, they are bringing people in to come and rehabilitate. The farmers in the Upper East region were complaining that the rice is sitting on the farm. They needed silos. The regional minister said the silos project is ongoing, it's not finished, but she was going to make sure it's finished quickly. What's happening? What's the disconnect?
Samson, thanks. What I see here is that everything is disjointed. Everyone is doing what is good for them. The truth is that if we say there's a glut, I stand to be corrected. There's no glut.
No, I speak about glut at the farm gate.
Glut at the farm gate.
Not in the market.
Yeah. This is happening because we don't have the financing to pick, period. Now, when you talk about other things like storage...
You don't have the financing. Why did you wait to this time before you started meetings with the minister, the government which is now assuring you of getting the importers to help you, and you have just announced something rather very good here, that they are saying that some of the import license may not be issued unless they collaborate and work with you?
We started soliciting from the financial institutions way back in February. So you can see where we are. November, not one single bank is ready to sponsor us.
Why didn't you, from the start, coordinate your activities through the ministry that is now assisting you?
Because we are private sector, we have to go out there and take it from the bank, no matter how high the interest charges are. And we thought between February and the harvest season of September will be enough time for us to have gotten the money we are looking for. It hasn't materialized. This is why we went to the ministry to tell the minister that this is what is happening. But to let you know, there is a facility that the government worked on. It's called the GIRSAL Fund. Ghana is GIRSAL. I'll find the meaning. The GIRSAL Fund, as I heard, is a African Development Bank Fund at the Bank of Ghana. They've set up a secretariat. The office is at the Exim Bank headquarters. And they are supposed to help in this situation by guaranteeing 70%, and then the 30% will come from us. But it's not happening because the banks see that the interest charges on the GIRSAL Fund is negligible. So they are not happy. So they are not collaborating, period.
I see. Interesting. Now, so can we just finish up? So immediately, what should happen? Immediately, in a minute, what should happen?
The talks that we are having come next Wednesday is that we are relying on the importers to give us the 20% that we are talking about, and also to advance. We are not saying pay upfront, but to advance some little deposit for us to give to the farmers, immediately start picking.
Okay.
What we see there, by January, going even for one bag will be a difficulty. So all that we need...
The farmer was complaining that people are asking for 3 bags for 2.
Oh, that is a non-starter. The whole point is that the farmer is afraid of the dry season and the fire. Because whether you like it or not, they are going to put fire into the farmland by next month. And farms get burnt. Last year, my farmers, some lost about 40–50% of their farms before they could harvest.
So the fear that other farmer expressed is real?
It's real.
When he said the fire will come for us?
It's real. By December, and then a lot of them would have lost their crops.
Anyway.
Well, Samson,
so, yes,
it's
let's
important
finish
to
up. AFENYO before you.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Samson, simply put, the first stage of intervention has been successful. That is getting extension officers to support our farmers, getting fertilizers right to the farmers. The yields are there for all to see. We are seeing the numbers. The second stage, which include the legitimate concerns, how to market these. And I'm sure the minister is working with them, and that will also be achieved.
And so this sounds like a failed execution.
It cannot be.
You have ensured that the things have gone on well. Production, growing, I call it production and all, harvesting, and then at the tail end, when you must be making profits, you are now losing.
Now, Samson, you can't call it a failure. The reason is that, you see, there's a process. One stage, second stage, and from all his submissions, as a professional, as a player in that field, he hasn't pointed a single failure in terms of policy on the part of government.
I've just listened to the minister. We've just listened to the minister. Yes. We have listened to the buffer stock CEO.
Of course.
And you can tell the knee-jerk, belated actions that are coming in.
No, if that's the impression, then that's unfortunate. But I didn't get that impression. I rather saw a concerted effort, a collaboration, a continuous effort. The minister gave a background. Look, you have this inertia by the importers. And he says that, look, in the past, the law is that you need license from me. But because we abandoned agriculture, because in the past, there was some lack of interest, there wasn't the need to even follow through that regulation. They were just allowing people to import. He gave out the figures. And I don't think that my respected colleague here would dispute that. That agriculture wasn't of key concern to to the then government.
Okay.
Now, efforts were made. Look, farmers, you were asleep. Consumers, you are afraid of going to eat sand and stones. Now we're going to make sure that you get quality rice. Efforts were made. People on the street who were not getting jobs were recruited. Fertilizers from the facts got to the farmers. What are the results? We are seeing 1 million tons by December, which has never happened in the history of rice production in this country. Now, you cannot say that there is a failure because the marketing bit, nobody made effort. No. There is a fund in place. And like what Mr. Dupoko is saying, the banks rather see some situation where they cannot perhaps maximize profit. But government has put that fund in place. It is for them to work with the private sector and get it done, which is being done. And please, it is too early to presume or speculate a failure. No, nobody would encourage production. Now, if all those silos that were put up, constructed many years ago, if in the past, for the past 8 years, 2009 to 2016, efforts were made to construct more silos, efforts were made to support farmers in rice production, I am sure that we wouldn't have this challenge today.
Okay.
Efforts are being made to get these warehousing system, these storage facilities in place.
All right.
Those who are processing are also being supported to get the machines to do the milling.
All right. Thank you.
There can't be any issue of failure.
Felix, finally, what you have
to say.
Is it
Government ought to be commended. Even
is it something?
Yes.
You know,
opposition
the
really has no interest in commending government. At least the reality.
Just some 2 minutes.
Please, no, I'll require a bit more.
To all of us, for all of us.
The Akufo-Addo government must refrain from exaggerating the outcomes of their policies and interventions. I heard a minister claim that agric declined to 2.9% in 2016, and suddenly it is hovering in very high numbers. You see, the facts don't bear out the claim. It is true that agri grew by 2.9% in 2016. In 2017, it grew by 6.1%. But that was only because of the pass-through effect of the policies that we had implemented. You see, their budget did not kick in until the last quarter of 2017.
Oh, good.
Now, in 2018, agri declined from 6.1% to 4.8% when their policies kicked in, including planting for foods and jobs. In 2019, in the just recently read budget, the minister indicated that as of the last quarter of 2019, agri was growing at 2.7%. In the first quarter, it grew around 2.2%. So really, not much has happened in terms of agri growth. Let me stress that even the planting for foods and jobs was an opportunistic change of name from a policy that we had named MAPLE. That policy arose out of a $125 million Canadian dollar grant from the Canadian government, which we had began the processes to access, but came in the early part of 2017. So really, nothing significant has happened in terms of agriculture that warrants the exaggerated claims that they are making. Again, the discussion that we have had here and the consistent mention of a glut by you is an indication of policy failure. Because if you invest in agriculture for rice to be produced in large quantities, only for that rice to be stuck at farm gates and not get to the market, then you have done nothing. You have really not opened up the bottlenecks that were holding down the agri sector. So I don't know why they keep on exaggerating.
But thankfully, it does appear that a number of solutions have been rolled out.
Well, let us see the
expectation.
I think what has been rolled out is a lot of
this good thing that the farmers have done will not go waste. That will be a sin that cannot be pardoned. We take a break, and when we return, we shall be asking, is EOCO persecuting the Auditor General? We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis show. And joining us now, Mr. Yaya Dupoku takes leave of us, and then Kweku Bako Jr. joins us. But let's begin by listening to the Auditor General, Daniel Domelevo. We will go back to listen to the Auditor General. He was on the Super Morning Show last week speaking with Daniel Dazi about things that have gone on in his office that he has concerns about. Of course, we know that in the course of this week, he wrote a letter. That we have gotten to know was written on the 18th of November to the IOCO, telling them to their face that they do not have the statutory mandate to investigate him in the manner they have sought to do. Of course, yesterday, as we know, a load of civil society organizations issued a press statement. And if you remember, this is not the first time they are coming to the defense of the Auditor General. They issued a press statement and simply asked the IOCO to get off the back of the Auditor General. These organizations are the Legal Resources Center, the Institute of Economic Affairs, the Africa Center for International Law and Accountability, Parliamentary News Africa, Economic Governance Platform, ISODEC, CSO Oil and Gas Platform, Women in Law and Development in Africa, that's WILDA, Citizens Movement Against Corruption, CMAC, Center for Local Governance Advocacy, Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative, West Africa Civil Society Initiative, Imani Ghana, Financial Accountability and Transparency Accra, Pen Plus Bytes, Africa Center for Energy Policy, Institute for Democratic Governance, IDEG, Media Foundation for West Africa, Send Ghana, Ghana Integrity Initiative, Ghana Center for Democratic Governance, CDD Ghana, and the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition. And just a few lines of what they had to say to give some perspectives. They said that CSOs concerned about the handling of alleged Auditor General public procurement violations. On November 5 this year, it was reported that the Economic and Organized Crime Office had launched an investigation into alleged public procurement breaches carried out by the Auditor General and one of his deputies in the purchase of vehicles for the audit service. The investigation was triggered by a private citizen's petition. As CSOs committed to fighting corruption, promoting the rule of law and public accountability, we welcome the efforts of investigative bodies to promote horizontal checks and balances. No one is above the law and everyone should be held to the same standard of accountability. However, as keen observers of the anti-corruption space, we are very alive to the ways in which state power can be abused to harass and intimidate public officers seeking to protect the public purse and serve the public interest. The genesis and its circumstances surrounding the alleged infractions being investigated and the handling of the investigations by another law enforcement raises concern that there is an attempt to undermine the work of the Auditor General. I'll read one last paragraph. We recall that in late September 2018, two petitions to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo leaked to the press. One was from the Auditor General accusing the Audit Service Board and particularly its chairman, Professor Dia Ajiman, of interfering with the Auditor General's work. The Audit Service Board also petitioned the President, stating, among other things, that the Auditor General had sidelined the board in procurement processes contrary to law and was acting on its own. A key issue of contention was the purchase of 32 vehicles the board claimed was in contravention of procurement rules. The President set up a committee to investigate the matter. Unfortunately, the outcome of the committee's work, led by the President's Executive Secretary, was not made public. I'll share some portions with you later, but Kukubaku is here. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, my brother.
Right. If the Auditor General is ready now, can we hear him and then hear our guests on this issue? All right, so let's begin by listening to Mr. AFENYO-MARKIN. What do you make of what is going on as far as handling of the Auditor General is concerned. We know, as a matter of fact, as the CSOs referred to, he had tried to do some audits, and the chairman of the board attempted to make a certain intervention because he said he had been petitioned by the NHIA that certain officers of the audit service, the manner in which they were seeking to investigate them, they were not pleased. They petitioned the chairman. They did not make any complaint to the audit service, who had written letters to them to produce documents and so on. But they chose to complain to the chairman. And the chairman sought to invite the lead person on the audit team auditing the NHIA, inviting them to a meeting in his office and at the Flagstaff, at the Jubilee House, the senior minister's office. The senior minister's office. These have raised issues. We know that in that process, he sought to, say that some of the procurements they were seeking to do were unnecessary and a waste of public resource, because they were seeking to procure a certain audit of a certain process, which had been done in 2016, and there was no evidence that they had even followed through the recommendations of that process, and yet they were throwing yet another, round of millions of Ghana cedis to do these things. He said you can't do that, and in any case, they had given the same contract to do the same kind of job to as many as 3, entities, including a South African entity or so. We know that this is what began the problems. And then, most recently, the Kroll and Associates assignment. The senior minister's office appears to be the one that was prosecuting this contract. Then later we find that the Ministry of Finance is involved. We find that the national security was involved. Money in excess of $1 million, was paid. And he asked the question, proof of work done. There was contract approved for them to do the work, PPA approved for them to contract for a year. They contracted for 4 years or so. He asked questions about that, and people say, this is why he's being pursued. His officers have been invited to Yoko, as many as 10 of them. None of them was cautioned and charged and bailed. He, the 11th, attended to Yoko, and he was cautioned, charged, or if you like, and bailed. Why?
Well, Samson, first of all, let me start with the Yoko. You know that in this country, no lawyer has sued Yoko more than I have done.
Yes.
I continue.
They don't like you.
Of course. I continue to fight Yoko. I still have about 5 cases, 3 at the High Court, 2 at the Court of Appeal, and 2 more, 7, 2 more at the Supreme Court for interpretation and all that. The Rambo style of arrest some years ago, I fought against it. A situation where FIC will freeze an account and refer it to its own investigative body instead of Yoko was also a matter I fought and won. So now let's come to our criminal jurisprudence. Can an investigative authority by law convict a citizen or an individual?
No.
Thank you very much. So when somebody is investigating, an institution is investigating, that body is not a court of law. You should be happy. You should be happy. Therefore, for an impression to be created that, the Auditor General is being persecuted, it's a bit worrying. Let them do what they want to do. Me, if I were his lawyer, he had come to me and said, Afenyo, Yoko has called. I say, sir, please go. They've cautioned you.
Even when they are wrong?
Don't worry. Let's finish the stage 1. It's not a matter of they being wrong. Because if they are wrong, they will be exposed. Samson, if Yoko, for whatever motive, they want to frustrate you. And they say, come, they caution you. You wait after a period because they must take you to court.
What if you allow the process and in the end you want to check out and you are told that you are acquiesced, so you can get out?
Oh, Samson, you are a lawyer. Don't stretch your devil's advocacy to that level. I am saying, under due process, proper due process, in this our criminal jurisprudence that we know as lawyers, if the first stage is investigation,
right?
If they're investigating you, it's not conviction. When they are done, they are supposed to prosecute. So if you know that all these stories, they are doing their own thing, allow them. You see,
he says he's not afraid of being investigated and he's willing to be investigated.
I agree.
Except that, like some people also suggest, the systems can fail you. So if you say he should allow the process,
systems, where would it end? In court?
No, the systems can fail you. And you have those who think that the Charlotte Osei example is systems that have failed him.
You see,
there was an Iyoko investigation, and then before we said Jack.
Okay, so let's talk about Charlotte Osei.
Part of that was used to go through a process that removed her.
Samson, although I strongly disagree with you, but because you brought the Charlotte Osei matter went to the Supreme Court. The Charlotte Osei matter, we had Supreme Court judges sitting on a matter and making a recommendation. Are you saying, for the whole world to hear you this morning, that there was a system failure? Is that what you are saying? Please, I hope not. Those who are saying there was a system...
You mean it went through the president, through the Chief Justice, not the Supreme Court?
Yes, what I'm saying, no. In terms of the court action, I think Mr. Baku...
It was not determined.
No, I'm not talking about... I'm saying that he sued.
That one was not determined.
Outcome,
that one was not determined.
Sure, what
you
I'm
can
saying,
leave that aside. That one was not determined.
I am saying that he sued, challenging the whole process.
The process.
Now let's come to the process. The process itself, Charlotte Osei had a lawyer who made the representation. There was a hearing, and she has not questioned the outcome of the process. She, Charlotte Osei, Mrs. Dupoku, the other deputy FNA, deputy operations.
Okay, let's stay with them.
No, we have to exhaust that. Those three respondents in that matter, where some people find it a system failure, have not complained. They have not.
The members of the public have a right to complain, and
yes,
they complain.
What I'm saying is that you and I, as lawyers, should tell the members of the public, who are claiming so, that they are wrong. There hasn't been a system failure. So that you see, we don't encourage that. If we do, then Samson, there will be no institution functioning in this country.
Okay, so back to
so now back to Yoko. Yeah. I am saying that Mr. Domilovo should relax, keep his calm. If he thinks that the Yoko is after his blood, all of us are watching. Okay? You've gone there, they've cautioned you. You've given a statement. Leave, you've gone home. Let them come to the next stage. If they have some evidence that you breached the procurement law in the award of a contract and all that, let them bring it on. In fact, per our laws.
He was not personally involved in this process, so to speak. 10 of his staff were invited. All the 10, nobody was cautioned. Nobody had to suffer bail. He was.
Samson.
Do you think he may be justified in suspecting that they want to persecute him instead?
Samson, do you want us to talk law or you want us to descend into the gallery? It's our collective duty here to encourage him on the path of law, which has certainty as an outcome. All right? On the path of law, he should have no worry. Were you not in this country when I would say some people conspired and demonized me, and to the point that we are finished with AFENYO-MARKIN, today is his end? I knew where it was coming from. I had some senior lawyers, some of them now at the bench, say, AFENYO, keep quiet, don't talk. Go through the process, let it be. If we know they are lying, it won't get to anywhere. It won't get anywhere. I am using the same yardstick to advise my senior brother. I was here on your program. Some issue came up. He called me. Some senior members of our party called me and said, This is how it is. I respect Mr. Domilevo. I beg of him. He shouldn't be emotional. He should not overly be engaging the media. He should relax. And take the advice of your lawyers. If you have gone to court, good. But don't be worried.
But it costs money to go to court too.
Oh, of course, because you want to protect your rights.
Yes.
Why? But he is a public officer.
So don't do the wrong to me, so I go to court.
Oh, come on. You are stretching it too far. Let's come to the real issue. I'm saying that you are not obliged to say anything. If you go to Yoko, I've taken them all the way to Supreme Court. Supreme Court ruled that this issue of questioning people how they got their money and all that, there's a Supreme Court decision. In Yoko, when you arrest somebody, you are investigating. That person is not obliged to tell you the source of his funding. It's a Supreme Court ruling. On all other investigations, they told them that don't say the person came and refused to give a statement, so you are doing ABC. You can't. So, boss, Auditor General, you are not obliged to say anything. When you go there, if you don't want to talk, don't talk. Let Iyoko finish with its investigation.
Well, he's not going there anymore. He would rather that they dare arrest him.
You see, well, if that is the path he wants, I would encourage him to depart from that path. It's an unholy path.
Now, what do you make about how, like, these groups of civil society have come together, and is it possible to say that all of them have gotten it wrong all this while? This is not the first time they are coming, they are making the intervention. That must speak, a lot about what is going on.
Okay, so those civil society organizations, I don't think that they are really looking at it from the legal perspective.
They've done that. They have assessed all of that.
These are my views. So allow me to express my view.
Okay.
I am saying that from the statement they have issued, I don't think they are really looking at the law. I don't think so. If they were looking at the law, they wouldn't express concern. They wouldn't say that Iyoko should not do its work. After all, the Auditor General also has a constitutional mandate to audit Iyoko. All right? So let's allow the system to work and observe it closely. It will end up in the courts. Now, I read the Auditor General's letter where he's giving interpretation and saying that he's been advised. Well, he's not a lawyer. But I'm happy he didn't mention that the lawyer has advised him. He says he's been advised. Perhaps somebody who
he says his lawyer has advised him.
No, he never said so. I read it. He said he's been advised.
He copied his
lawyers.
lawyers.
No, but it doesn't mean because Mr. Tadiosori will not advise Mr. Domilevo not to go to Yoko.
You can say that.
No, he won't do that. That senior lawyer, he will not tell the Auditor General that the law has been amended and that Yoko has no mandate to investigate you, so don't go. Tadios will never say that. He's only been copied. Auditor General said he's been advised. He didn't say lawyer. And I don't think any lawyer in this country will advise him not to go to Yoko. If that person advises not to go to Yoko, of course, it could be any citizen, not a lawyer. I don't think any trained lawyer in this country would advise him that don't go to Yoko. And I don't think Mr. Story, in whom I take a lot of inspiration, will ever advise him that way. He has only copied him of his letter. The letter was not written by a lawyer. He didn't say Tadiosori advised him not to go because Act 959, Section 80 has amended Section 74 of Yoko Act, that phrase bribery and corruption. So he shouldn't go and that Yoko has no mandate. He never said Tadios advised him. He only said he's been advised. I am happy he has gone to court on his rights. It's good. Let's see how the court deals with it. But let us also help our state institutions to function. Look, Mr. Domilevo is well respected by senior members of this government and is respected by the government and the president. Nobody should create that impression that the government doesn't like him or some people are after him. Even if some people don't like him, he should keep his calm. He should keep his calm. The systems that are working today, nobody can take him to court and jail him. How? If he, indeed, his office, and like you're saying, he was not there when the procurement Okay. When the whatever purchases took place, whatever that is being alleged he was involved.
No, I'm saying he was not personally involved.
Well, but he's an entity.
I didn't say he wasn't there.
Okay. Now, if you are talking about personally, I have the public computer.
Okay.
He's the head of entity, is he?
He's not.
He's not the head of entity.
No.
Oh, hallelujah.
He's deputy.
Okay. So I am good. So it is good for him. If you are.
So what do you think? What do you think? Just by that, what you were thinking that he's the head of entity.
If
you find that he's not the head of entity,
if he's not the head of entity,
right? What do you make of the development then?
No. If he is not he's not the head of entity, he's not at all involved. He should be a happy man, because the investigation will come to nothing.
Okay, all right. Just hold it there briefly, and let's listen to Mr. Yao Daniel Domelovo.
I've said time and again, and I'll repeat it this morning, that once you fight corruption, corruption will fight you back. And it will fight you in any way that it can, justifiably or unjustifiably. I'm aware of this, and I think you might have heard that last year, Daily Guide was at the forefront of trying to tarnish my reputation. Even they said they were going to strip me naked. And I think I still have my clothes on. I am not yet naked. And it was all because of procurement of some vehicles for the Ghana Audit Service. What happened is that in the course of the procurement, well, under the procurement at which also I have over here, you see that the person who chairs the entity tender committee for constitutionally independent institutions is the head of administration, not the head of entity.
Okay.
So my deputy in charge of administration chairs that.
Okay.
So in the course of the procurement, when the vehicles had been procured, I'd wanted to find out whether everything has been done according to the books, according to the law. Then I discovered that they didn't go for concurrent approval. I said, my guys, why did you not go for concurrent approval? Because that procurement is above the threshold for our entity tender committee. So I asked them to go for the public, the concurrent approval. They wrote a letter to the Central Tender Review Committee explaining that we have skipped a process, but we want your approval. And they did give us approval. They wrote saying that after looking at what you have done, we have given you approval. But then the issue came out. I remember even my board chairman, he was at the forefront of saying that I have misprocured. And I have him on record. He was speaking to Captain Smart. Sorry, not Planet, sorry. Captain Smart. He was speaking to Captain Smart where he said that I have violated the law. So I said, no, there is no violation over here. I think that we didn't go for concurrent approval and we had gone for it. So once we have gone for it, I think the mischief has been cured. But it went until I had a discussion with the then chief executive of PPA, Mr. A.B. Ajay. And he said, from his point of view, we should have come for ratification instead of going for the concurrent approval. But I said, Section 90 of the Public Procurement Act, under which you can ratify, your right to ratification accrues only when you have done investigation. You cannot just get up and ratify, because it is as a result of an investigation report. So he said, okay, then Daniel, if that is not a problem, we can come and investigate and see whether things were done right. I allowed it. So PPA came and did their investigation. When they came to do the investigation, they, at the end, wrote a report. Very interesting. Anyone who has a copy of that report, page 8 of the report, they made recommendation to Audit Service to apply for ratification. The Public Procurement Board team that came to do the audit report, the investigation, recommended that Ghana Audit Service should apply to PPA Board for ratification. Then we applied for the ratification. Say, okay, give us the ratification. Then the board right to say no. The right to ratify is at the discretion of the board. It's not for you to request for it. So the reason why we will not give you is because you have asked for it. In fact, if I knew this was going to come, I would have come with their letter. They gave the reason. They said the reason why we will not give it is that it is not a right that an auditee or an someone being investigated should ask for. But it is at our discretion. We have to give you that lesson. And so what kind of logic is this? You send a team to come and do an investigation. They finish and they say, apply for ratification. I apply for the ratification. I say, because you've applied for ratification, I'm not going to give you. Even though they said they were not going to ratify, interestingly, they went ahead and said that, not just said, they directed that all the service should take immediate steps to pay for the cars. They directed, listen to me. I didn't say that they advise us or they urge us. They directed that we should take immediate steps to pay for the car. In financial management and in law, in substance, they have ratified from my point of view. Because under Section 90 of the Public Procurement Act, they have the right to cancel the whole procurement process. That is one. Mm-hmm. 2, they can nullify the contract. That is 2. 3, they can ratify. 4, they can give any instructions that is necessary. Mm-hmm. So if you nullify the contract, it can be paid for, isn't it?
Yes, it can.
If you cancel the whole process, it can be paid for. Is that not it?
No, it can't.
So if you say pay for it, it means that you have accepted it. So any infraction therein have been ratified from my point of view by PPA. So Yoko should go to PPA and find out why did they ratify it. I don't see why they are on the back of my staff. For the past 2 or 3 weeks, they've invited my deputies and several officers. I think it's one of the intimidating principles or approaches being used. But then I want to assure them that they can come and jail me. We will not stop doing what we are doing.
All right, so that is the Auditor General Yao Domelevo, Daniel Domelevo. So, Kweku. Yeah, no, I'll come back to you later. Okay. Kweku, so what do you make of what is going on? Because people have put, 2 and 2 together and say, clearly, he's been out there, like they say, or he said, when you fight corruption, it will fight you back.
Well, you know something? This is an Auditor General that I have openly and publicly endorsed for his spirit and his activism. And even before he took office, I recall there was some public controversy about the appointment. Timing, late hour appointments, as it were, by President Mahama. It became a huge issue. We discussed it here. I think including the one of Shraj and all somebody's. And I was in principle not against the late hour appointments. I thought it was constitutional. There was absolutely nothing unconstitutional about it. We discussed it on this very show. And I was very clear in my mind that the president then had not committed an act of unconstitutionality. And I said so publicly. The gentleman came into office and began to work. Of course, a certain space had been created for him, and that's the part that I think he's doing quite well, by the Occupy Ghana's Supreme Court decision.
Disallowances and
surcharges. Not that it was the first time ever being done, but this time was backed by the law, that is by the Supreme Court's verdict. There had been an earlier 1 or 2 instances of disallowances and surcharge by a previous attorney.
But the regime was absolutely dormant.
Yes, that's exactly what I mean.
Until
the Occupy Ghana still was
resurrected it
significant, critical. And now everybody became aware, and an Auditor General decided to be inspired by it and driven by it to do his work, and that was good for all of us as a nation.
Before he asked Osafo to pay back the 1 million, he had done the special audit that was giving us about 5 million or 5 billion.
Yes, even that became a
so he's asking people to pay back, and government has been excited.
Yes, and it isn't as
if all of these things back.
In all instances he may get it right, because I recall that Sylvester Mason and some people have gone to court
and they've been successful.
Yes, one of the things. No office is above reproach.
That's right.
In terms of quality of work, you can't get it 100% all the time. But what the point I'm making is that in principle, I like him and I admire him.
However,
but I have also made a point that if I were him, I would be very circumspect and cautious in how I deliver my messages, when and how. There are times I think he goes too far in his communication. And I just, because I like him and I think he needs our support, I pray that he stays focused so that nobody starts thinking we have an agitator general rather than auditor general. And I say this with a lot of caution and respect to his integrity.
Would you say the same of Martin Amido?
But I've said so here, and I made a point that the office may tame my friend Martin and let him get focused. I've said so. And last Thursday, Randy Abbey, in a very interesting way, asked me whether I see any similarities between the Auditor General and the Special Prosecutor. And I said yes. But you see, because of the context, the kind of environment in which we live, you need people like this to get into those positions and fight it.
The two of them are supposed to be fighting corruption,
so
really?
I'm absolutely for the two of them. Everybody knows
so
that.
Proceed. You are going to documents you have already...
Yes, a quick one. You see, the point about advice and not advice. If I read the case in court, the writ they have filed in court, which is sorry who is leading.
Yeah.
You are the lawyers, I'm not. But it is obvious that he's been advised by his lawyers.
Of course.
Because if you look at chapter 14, and I read that I have been advised by my lawyers.
14.
Paragraph 14, thank you. And very belief seem to be true, that respondent has no statutory mandate to investigate the service and myself, either jointly or individually, for any offenses relating to breaches of the procurement laws of the Republic of Ghana, such as falling within the statutory province of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. 15, that accordingly, I've been advised by my lawyers, and very...
You can proceed. He said that so many times.
So, but that's the one in court. I was talking about the letter.
He says he's been advised. In the letter to Iyoko, he said he's been advised. Who else do you think would have advised him on a legal matter? Who else would have advised him on a legal matter? Koku, go on. Sorry,
I'm taking his time to.
See,
let me, Uncle, just a second. You see, my point was, and I still maintain that a lawyer advising you on a law would rather seek an audience with the court. But writing to Iyoko that you've been advised that don't come, no lawyer will say that do so, don't go.
I disagree.
But rather take you to court.
I disagree with you that no lawyer will say don't do that. Because there are circumstances where you tell your client don't go there, let them come arrest you instead. Right? Because we know we know. And we advise
if it's an interpretation of judges, and this is the best way to do it.
Even by judges, we advise even by judges that sometimes you are better off advising your client not to go and allow them to come and arrest them. So
context?
So that they can assert their rights. Okay, let's go on. Let's go on.
All I was seeking to do was not to tackle what had been said in the press statement out there. I was looking at the substantive issue.
Right.
The substantive issue being that what is in court for me is what is on the front burner. This has more weight.
Right.
Yes, so I was not contesting what Afenyo said relative to a press release. The contents may be what he was saying.
It's a letter really, not a press release.
Okay. It's a
letter that's been leaked.
Maybe in the, I haven't seen that letter, but it may be so in the letter. But this takes precedence as far as I'm concerned, based on the fact that whatever he's saying and doing, he's been advised by
Afenyo knows that most of the times, before we take you to court, we will advise our clients to write to you, or we may write to you.
It's not the lawyer who wrote.
Okay, I don't think we have to debate
but
that.
That's a sin.
It's an important matter. Something we can't just gloss over.
I think we should get on.
It's an important matter.
Let's go on, Kuku.
Let's go on the substantive.
Let's go on.
Yeah, and now another argument that came up, and it's unfortunate I didn't bring my public procurement law here, but I'm sure you may have it on.
Yeah, we do.
When the Public Procurement Authority finished with the investigations, they issued a report.
Right.
A copy of which I have here. The covering letter is dated 3rd January 2019. And I would want to read some 2-3 paragraphs. That is general observations and findings on page 6. It says the Ghana Audit Service failed to establish entity tender committee in the manner set out in the fare schedule and in accordance with the categories set out in Schedule 1B of Act 663 as amended. all procurements approved by the current composition of the ETC, that is the Entity Tender Committee, are declared null and void, as the composition does not represent the requirement for the establishment of an ETC under Schedule 1B2 of Act 663 as amended. The use of the current composition of the Entity Tender Committee by the Audit Service to carry out procurement is a major contravention to Schedule 1B of Act 663 as amended, and therefore constitute a sanctionable offense under Section 92(1) of Act 663 as amended. Now this is where the point comes. It says the interpretation given by the Ghana Audit Service for the head of administration as per Category B, Schedule 1B2 of Act 663 as amended to mean the Deputy Auditor General in charge of finance and administration as the chairperson of the Entity Tender Committee, but not the head of entity, is contrary to the meaning and the spirit of the law. They are raising a legal argument, counter-argument to what I guess he did. Yes, what he did and what was happening here. Section 18(1) is clear on the responsibility placed on head of entity in the implementation of Act 663 as amended, and Section 17(1) and 18(2) goes to state that concurrent approval and delegation of authority does not absolve the head of entity from accountability of any procurement carried out that is inconsistent with the Public Procurement Act 2003 at 663 as amended. Failure to, I think this is not relevant. You see, so there's a debate, there's a dispute as to whether indeed the head of entity ought to have been the Auditor General himself or his deputy. There's a dispute.
His view is that he's not the one who's supposed to head it.
That's why I said there's a dispute. There's a dispute, meaning there's a conflict of interpretation relative to the provisions that is there. I don't have my act here, but I'm sure you would have it. So if you could help. But there is this dispute already. And on basis of this report, some adverse findings were made against the audit service. Now the Public Procurement Authority in this case are pointing directly to the head of entity, in their opinion, being the Auditor General. That's what they are saying. And they recommended to the Attorney General's office to initiate investigations. From what I've heard, the Attorney General's office did not, because what is before Iwoko is driven by a citizen petition. That's what I've been told. I don't know if you checked that. That is a citizen who has petitioned Iwoko. See, and the civil society groups, the statement they issued, there was a certain very salient point they made, that no institution or personality is above the law, and that they in principle are not opposed to any state institution undertaking such investigations. I'm minded by the fact that, and I think I'm inclined to believe that one, that those powers that Iwoko had relative to procurement, I think were ceded to the
special prosecutor.
Yes, I mean, are you sure?
No. It's only...
No, wait.
No, I'm inclined to believe
it's an interpretation of the 80 where bribery and corruption.
No, you may want to take your time and look at it. Yeah, you may want to take your time.
No, that was the specific thing.
And again, we may have to be a little careful, because that is now become the issue in the courtroom.
But there are many cases.
But this is what they said. This is what they said. This is what the group of about over 24 civil society groups. This is what they said. They said, in our considered view, it is our considered view that at every turn of the matter, the purported procurement procedural challenge could have been cured, but various state agencies decided to teach the Auditor General a lesson. The board, led by its chair, could have respected the clear corporate governance traditions and rules in allowing the Auditor General to carry out his chief executive role, particularly when the procurement was made transparent and for value. the ongoing feud with the Auditor General prevented it. At the PPA, the board could have approved the concurrent application for ratification after establishing that there was value. But again, this option was rejected. In relation to the current investigation by EOCO, it is abundantly clear that jurisdiction over the investigation and prosecution of, quote, corruption and corruption-related offences has been entrusted to the Office of Special Prosecutor under Section 79 of the OSP Act 2017. Parliament even went further to delete the words, quote, corruption and bribery, unquote, from the definition of serious crimes, definition of, quote, serious crimes, unquote, under the EOCO Act, as part of the consequential amendment to make this clear. Indeed, in a recent High Court decision in a case brought by the Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu, Justice Efia Sewa-Botwe affirmed the OSP's jurisdiction over investigations and violations of the public procurement under the Act. So it is unclear why EOCO would be investigating this matter and not the Special Prosecutor. Following the outcome of the OSP versus Honorable Mahama Yarga case, it is likely that any charge brought by EOCO relating to public procurement violations will be thrown out for lack of jurisdiction. Moreover, it is strange that EOCO is investigating this matter in the first place after the PPA has established value for money and had not found any malfeasance or dissipation of public funds.
Well, a bit convoluted. It mixes up too many things. See, the same PPA, first of all, in terms of their findings, said the board further, where is it? Yes, the board deployed the conduct of the Ghana Audit Service. Deployed in breach of public procurement law and recommended referral of the report to the Attorney General's Department for appropriate action. So it means, bottom line, even the PPA did not think that what had been done was satisfactory in accordance with law. Now, when it comes to the second one, the one about ratification, this is what the PPA said. And this letter was to the Auditor General. It says, the board's attention was drawn that the Ghana Audit Service had written to request for ratification in accordance with Section 93C of the Public Procurement Act 2003 at 663 as amended, Clause 50 of the Public Procurement Amendment Act 2016 at 914. The request was duly discussed and rejected by the board.
But the board went ahead and said, take immediate steps and pay to Toyota Ghana.
Yes, so we should outline all the details.
Yes.
That's the paragraph.
He says that direction to pay for him is ratification.
Yeah. See, the court will determine that. That's my opinion.
Are you saying that by your understanding, they meant that the audit service should pay from their own pockets?
Listen to what they said. But paragraph 3 of the covering letter. The board further directed that because the state had obtained services and in order to avert financial loss to the state through judgment debt, instant steps should be taken by the Ghana Audit Service to pay the supplier after verifying the outstanding debt. You may say contradictory, but that's what is on board now. And that is why I am saying that this matter is subject to litigation in the appropriate forum.
So if they say that there's something was void, like you suggested earlier, why are they afraid of judgment debt? To be afraid of judgment debt will mean that you appreciate that there is a contract and it's valid.
Something. You see, I think that I'm not too sure.
No, I asked the question to Koku,
I'm not too sure what.
But this one,
no, hold on.
I'm not too sure where the focus is here. Right now, this report by PPA contains adverse findings against the audit service. They recommended that the Attorney General should initiate investigations. The Attorney General obviously didn't do or hasn't done. And a citizen petitions the EOCO I am convinced that when it comes to the jurisdictional issue, I think the UOCO has fallen short of its mandate. That's my view.
And again, a citizen petitions UOCO after a pro-government Alliance for Accountable Governance, AFAG.
You know something?
Pressure group.
I'm not interested.
Calls for action.
I'm not interested
against the process.
It can never be part of a substantive case in litigation in court. You know that. You know that.
No, we are not in court here.
No, yeah, but I'm saying that I'm focused. And that's why I'm happy that Auditor General went to court.
Okay.
Okay? That's when it comes to such things. You have a situation where institutions of state loggerheads, issues are coming up. You have a political civil society group also intruding all that. The forum, when it gets to court, what AFAG has said in their press statement means nothing. It's of no moment, and you know that.
Okay.
It will not be considered in court. Indeed, I don't see the Auditor General even mounting a case in court on basis of that.
Okay.
Yes, in the realm of public discussions, those things come up, and sometimes it turns propagandist. Look, this Auditor General, who I say must be protected and supported by all good Ghanaians, can do without propaganda.
Okay. It appears that the Auditor General clearly seems to want to say he knows his law and he will not be bullied by anybody. Koku mentions the PPA finding that even the committee itself, the way it was constituted, they had a problem with it. And on the basis of that, everything they have done should be known.
And they are quoting the law.
Exactly.
That's why I wish you had.
He too quotes the law back to them and says that you say this is wrong.
Yeah, but
I say it is not wrong because we have a quorum. The law's requirement is that the chairman and 3 others, and that is there. The people that were not there, for which you say what we have done is wrong, is that the Attorney General's representative was not attending the board's meeting. The Parliament's representative.
That's not part of the
That's what led to this ruling.
Wait.
Let me just finish that point. That's what led to this ruling. That Parliament's representative on the board was also not attending. And they showed to the PPA that as far back as 15th of March, they had written to Attorney General and these people and say, your people are not coming. Can you bring people to the board?
And they brought them.
Can you bring them? Okay.
Yes, they brought them. So that's why I said that's not a problem.
They actually sent reminders again in April asking for these people to be brought.
Because they actually, the audit service did the right thing. They got these institutions to bring their people and they brought them. So that's not the issue.
And this structure predates this Auditor General.
Yes, that structure.
So why do they have a problem with it now?
No, but I don't see, it's not a problem in this report.
Right.
Because it was cured by the investigation itself.
Okay.
The audit service produced evidence of correspondence, communications to Parliament, Attorney General, and they showed the people they brought.
Right.
So it's not an adverse finding here. No.
Okay. Whilst you say it's not an adverse finding,
I can read it out.
It is one of the charges that UOCO puts against the Auditor General.
So if UOCO is doing its investigations and these are the paths they are following, you can see what will happen eventually.
Okay. Yes.
That's why
I am extremely surprised that Mr. Baku seeks to dismiss the involvement of AFAG. You see,
he says relative.
No. I'm making something. The people involved in the process are as important as the forum at which the matter is adjudicated, because after all, it is the people involved who kick-started the whole fuss, leading to a situation where a state entity intervenes and then it ends up in court. So we cannot dismiss it. So in this matter, timing, the people involved, the power they wield, the organizations used, and where the matter is determined finally are all important. And in considering it, you cannot dismiss it. Look, Samson, I am convinced beyond reasonable doubt that the Auditor General is the latest victim of a campaign of retribution and vendetta against persons deemed critical to this government. And it is not just him. You see, if it were just an isolated case of Mr. Dumelevo, we could make an exception and say that it is only due process that is being followed. Look, we know that this government has moved against people who criticize them. They have removed an EC chairperson who they gave notice they would be removing when they were in opposition.
senior security officials make pronouncements that are deemed critical of the way government behaves, suddenly they find themselves in trouble.
The facts they took
for
the petition to the president, which led to the removal of
just a minute. You see, just a minute.
Were not manufactured by them.
Well, it's the same procurement breach, and I'll come to the reason why I'm saying so, because it is not only these individuals against whom there are allegations of procurement breaches. So government must show consistency to the extent that they are turning a blind eye to procurement breaches by senior government officials. It cannot be reasonably inferred that they are acting in good faith in the matters that they pursue. Something even
this may be a very
I'll come to that. I'll come to that.
This may be a very critical point because if you look at the Kroll and Associates,
I'll come to that.
They went back.
Something, if you allow me, I'll come to that.
To ask for things long after they had even started. They started the contract even before they gave them the contract.
Something, I'll come to that. If you allow me to flow.
Is the crew,
Mr. Baku, if you allow me to flow.
No, I'm just,
if you allow me to flow.
Giving an example.
If you allow me to flow, I'll come to that.
So if in the Kroll matter, they were able to go back and do the cure the processes for them, why couldn't they do for this?
If you allow me, I'll make
If we do
this, I'll come back to you.
This is like unleashing an octopus.
No.
To go on rampage, bringing all sorts of issues on board. Why? We are not doing justice to the issue.
No.
Okay? It's now becoming speculative, conjectures and things. There's a focus here. The focus is that Ioko is attempting or has attempted to probe the AG. That is the Auditor General.
The AG says he's being intimidated for some things he's doing.
Yes.
And we know the things he has done. Which the government is not pleased with.
The case he sent to court, the rate. I don't see Crow here.
No, it's just
of course, he cannot possibly.
So what are we discussing? So that's why I say you've unleashed an octopus.
Yes, go on, Felix, go on.
That's what you've done.
Felix, go on.
Those facts and instances are material.
You go on, yes.
He will say that in court.
No, just a minute.
You go on.
It is not everything that will be said in court. It does not mean that those of us observing the process are precluded from analyzing what we believe
the court
to be informing the process.
Okay, fine. Court of public opinion. You can judge.
Even headmasters who have dared challenge aspects of free SHS have been fought against by this government. Journalists who have done work critical of this government have found themselves in trouble. Suddenly. Why? Was it not your own Manasseh, who we are told by the Media Foundation for West Africa was chased out of this country? He had to seek refuge in another country because of work he did.
Did he say government people were chasing him?
But why? Why? So who was chasing him? Samson, who was chasing him?
It could be anybody.
Oh.
Let's go on. Let's talk about
so this government
level, please.
I'll come. This government seeks to create a climate of fear and intimidation. All these pieces that I have put on the table here cannot be coincidence. It cannot be coincidental. That the moment you begin to voice concern about the way this government is handling affairs, or if you're a public servant and you take steps to take on influential or powerful members of government, you suddenly find yourself in trouble. We cannot overlook that in analyzing matters. That is why I am gratified that the civil society organizations have come together to lend support to Mr. Dumelovo. Because at the very least, this marauding government that is engaged in impunity must be brought to a screeching halt. Now, what are the issues? I spoke to you earlier about timing. Mr. Dumelovo gets invited to Ioko around the same time that he surcharges the senior minister over the Kroll matter. And something, if you have your ears to the ground, as I do, you would know who rules the roost at Ioko, who is in charge of audits, investigations that end up at Ioko.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that there is a committee whose membership includes the senior minister and Professor Diajman, who we know is engaged in a
committee allowed by law.
Oh, of course, set up by the government. Look, why? I know of NDC.
But Ioko is run by competent professionals.
No problem. But something.
Okay.
Check how Ioko begins its investigations into all the people that it has investigated. At least those on the side of the NDC who find themselves involved in one investigation or the other. The people in charge are the senior minister and Professor Diajman. The senior minister is the subject of
Which committee are you referring to?
Oh, the committee on audits.
At Ioko.
You recall that when the NDC held a press conference...
You said this committee is at Ioko.
They are not at Ioko. It is a government committee. They are the ones who commission forensic audits, which eventually end up at Ioko.
So that's what you mean?
Yes.
So you can't say that...
I'm not saying that...
They will be calling the shots at Ioko.
Why? something, I am telling you, I know that because I have friends and colleagues who have gone to Yoko and have been told how the investigations came about. Both gentlemen have an axe to grind with Mr. Dumelovo. The senior minister, because of the Kro matter, Professor Diajiman, is engaged in a very public spat with the Auditor General over some audits that the Auditor General refused to carry out, or some audits that he did that government found distasteful. So in analyzing the issues, we cannot divorce these entities. Again, AFAG. AFAG is the one that began this whole brouhaha about the Auditor General. And who is AFAG? An MPP grouping. Why should we discount that in the analysis? Mr. Dumelovo himself speaks about the Daily Guide as the one newspaper that has waged a consistent campaign against him. Who was the Daily Guide? The MPP chairman. So Mr. Bako's attempt to dismiss the involvement of these entities cannot stand scrutiny. Again, let us not create the impression that we are all dullards in this country and that we think that the be-all and end-all of criminal processes is at the courts. It may well be true, but things don't just get to the courts. Why? At the very least, don't we know that judges have been influenced before? And that's showed it. And if ordinary people carrying goods and yams and 1,000 cedis can influence judges, are you going to underestimate the influence that public officials, powerful ones, can have on the court? I'm not saying anything.
Felix,
I'm not saying anything.
Felix, let's be fair to the facts.
Yes.
And to proceed on the basis
so
of
I'm proceeding.
analysis work to suggest that, you know, the judges...
It establishes beyond
susceptible to being compromised.
It establishes beyond doubt that they are susceptible to being compromised. Judges have been removed because of that. So I don't know why you are challenging.
That's just a few judges, some.
Good. So who is to say that some too cannot be influenced by powerful government officials if the argument were to be stretched? The point I'm making is that in this matter, whichever way you look at it, if you look at the facts available, you look at the gravity of the offense and what the Auditor General is going through, it can only be the result of an attempt to silence him because his conduct is proving uncomfortable for government. In their view, he is touching fishes who they deem are too big to fall. That is what is happening.
He's saying he should rather be interested, like Oku said, focusing in the court. And we know that the courts have given judgments against government all the time.
That is fine. That is fine. It is not just that.
Evidence is there.
It is not just that. Because of his involvement in this matter, I suspect that what happened to others may happen to him too. He eventually may be asked to step aside.
They're saying what happened to others was unfair.
It is unfair. Look. Let us not. You see something. When courts make pronouncements, when judicial bodies rule, you have no option than to be bound by their ruling. But let nobody suggest that that in itself represents finality when it comes to justice and fairness. There are many people by whom wrong has been done by courts and judicial bodies. Sometimes you see that the process is unfair, it is deeply flawed and slanted. That is something that has happened in our history as a country. So let us not dismiss those things. So when things begin to happen and you see clear pieces in place that suggest a witch hunt, we must be bold to speak to it. That is why I commend the civil society organizations. That is why Mr. Dumelovo's challenge to Yoko's jurisdiction is an important step. At the very least, it shows that there are people who are still interested in ensuring that the public purse is protected and are interested in taking on the powerful forces that want to undermine them. The point I made about government's own consistency in terms of the use of procurement breaches. Charlotte Osei was removed on the basis of procurement breaches. There are former officials in the NDC government standing trial on the basis of procurement breaches. At least in the Kro matter, there is evidence to show that the senior minister has been involved in procurement breaches. What process has been initiated to hold the senior minister accountable apart from Mr. Dumelovo's actions? Why? And what is the Kro matter? The senior minister signed a contract with Kroll on behalf of the government of Ghana. The contract was dated 26 September 2018. And it took retroactive effect 13 February 2017. Yet approval was given to it on 14 November 2017. And even that approval was given to the National Security Council when it was Mr. Osafo Mafo who is the signatory and was doing so on behalf of the government of Ghana. The National Security Council has a Minister of National Security. There's a Minister of State in charge of National Security. There's a National Security Advisor. There's a National Security Coordinator who I believe are all clothed with the power to the extent that they are mandated to do so to represent government in this transaction. To make matters worse, when the Auditor General looked into this matter and wrote management letters to the Ministry of Finance that did the payment, to ask for evidence of work done. That is, and indeed, Kroll was engaged to help with investigations into the electronic gadgets of government officials who they suspected may have committed some crimes. They were also supposed to help with the recovery of assets for the state in terms of allegedly stolen monies and other assets belonging to the state. So the Auditor General requested that show us proof of this work. Show us how much was recovered in terms of funds and assets or any other work that may have been conducted. That information has not been forthcoming, yet payment has been made. Again, this is clearly an international financial transaction because Kroll is a UK-based entity. And we have a history where our Supreme Court has ordered the refund of monies paid to entities who even executed work because of the lack of parliamentary approval. So that too is a breach. And yet the senior minister is not being held to account. The very man who takes the step to surcharge him so that we can recover that $1 million paid to him suddenly becomes the subject of Yoko investigation. An entity that the senior minister has significant influence over because of evidence available. And Mr. Bako tells us that we are delving into the realm of absurdity and that we are introducing an octopus into the debate. Well, this is a very material octopus whose tentacles we can see visibly taking steps to hound an Auditor General whose work has become problematic for government. Right, Samson, I suspect that what may happen eventually is that a group will petition the president and ask for Mr. Dumelobo to be asked to step aside, as was done to Mrs. Charlotte Osei.
Well, if something had gone on wrong,
but what has gone on wrong?
And it's susceptible to this process. We have heard, for example, senior lecturer lawyer Maxwell Opoku-Agyeman say that, well, the things they are talking about, it should not even be going to Yoko. They should take a petition, and if they took a petition, the president may consider it. So what's wrong about that?
Lawyer Opoku-Agyeman would know, wouldn't he? He's the one who was behind Charlotte's Woods, wasn't he?
He was lawyer, please.
Absolutely. But when I say he was, I don't mean it personally. I don't mean it personally. What I mean is that he did work that ensured Charlotte Osei's removal.
So what's the point? What's the point?
Again, consistency. Consistency. There is evidence that as for some category of people, when petitions are presented against them, the president does not become a conveyor belt. The conveyor belt gets stuck. It is only in the cases of people deemed problematic for government that the conveyor belt works. And I don't have any personal difficulty with anybody. Why? I do know that the Chief Justice, the current Chief Justice, outgoing Chief Justice, was a subject of a petition to the president.
Is it outgoing or
well,
today?
Is he gone?
Today is actually the
is he gone?
She's
well,
supposed to
well,
finish.
fine.
I don't know.
But I'm sure you are aware that there's a petition against her sent to the president about 2 years ago, which has not been conveyed, in spite of the fact that the president says he's a conveyor belt.
Too late.
Let me round up.
Thank you.
So I am making the point that Mr. Bako's effort to dismiss the entities involved in this governmental conspiracy to get rid of Mr. Dumelobo cannot stand scrutiny. The people, the process, and what is done are as important as the forum at which it is adjudicated. And I commend the civil society organizations for rising to the occasion. Indeed, I ask all Ghanaians to rise up to the occasion, because what is happening now is that a climate of fear and intimidation is being established. You cannot criticize government and get away with it anymore. That is at the heart of this particular matter. It is not because government has an abiding belief in taking steps against persons who breach procurement laws, because the evidence shows that they are the NYA matter involving Asigri and his two deputies. What has happened? Was it not a clear procurement violation where they awarded a 4.5 million Ghana cedi contract without any procurement process? Has Ivyoko invited them?
Thank you.
Or which entity is looking into it?
So Afenyo, are you saying, and we have just a couple of minutes to go for you, are you saying that there is no correlation whatsoever, connection whatsoever about the disallowance the Auditor General has issued for the $1 million for the Kroll and Associate thing, because he has asked legitimate questions, that you have an approval for a 1-year contract, but you have made payment for 4 years or whatever it is, and then when you go back to the NHIA matter, which the chairman of the board was not happy about, actually complained that not he alone was not happy about, or the people were not happy about, but government was not happy about in his letter, in his interaction with the Auditor General. When the Auditor General says these contracts There is a one forensic audit by MS Alberto Canse, claims and clinical audit, MS AKK Management Consulting Limited, review of NHIS operating model and overhaul of the claims payment system to stop financial losses by Taraji Health Consortium. So you are talking about 9 million, a total of 11,260,000 involved. That more than that, plus 3 million US dollars, plus another 3 million US dollars, and so on. That these things that he said they should stop because they were sheer waste, and that just in 2016 similar things were done, and therefore there's no need to do it. There probably may not be a need to do it again. And if NHI wanted to do this, they should have gone through the health service or through the Ministry of Health. They didn't do all of these things, and he has issues with you. You say all of this is unconnected with what is going on with him?
Something, before I respond to this, permit me, in my earlier submission, I was referring to Abdulmalik Kwekubaku Jr.'s writ at the Supreme Court. And he said that had not been determined. Did you say that? Maybe I didn't get you right.
The substance of what you said,
right,
and what was determined in the court.
Okay.
The court was to determine the procedures that had been used in the process.
Very well.
And the court said a case had not matured for its attention. So it was not determined, if you like.
Oh, okay. Because I was just reading the ruling, and it didn't appear so. That's why I wanted.
You won't find a ruling, because there was not.
Is it different from the J1?
There was not a reason ruling gave.
Okay, but I'm reading this after listening to counsel in the matter on the question whether the instant action is proper invocation of original jurisdiction, and also having regard to the processes filed in the matter. We are of the view that the action does not raise any issue of interpretation or enforcement. Accordingly, we strike out the action herein, which in our view is unmeritorious.
Yes, so what's the substance then?
Yes, what I'm saying is that, I mean...
Invocation of jurisdiction. The matter substantively is not determined.
Oh. Yes, but if
you have some 2 minutes.
Very well, but I think let's do it.
Substantively, it's not determined.
Oh, really? You think so? But it says that it's unmeritorious. The issue of law has not arisen. That is it. So it's embedded.
You proceed.
Yes, it's interlocked. All right. Now, you see, something. If I choose a path, that only path of Felix, this program will turn into something else. Because I wanted us to look at the law, encourage each other.
Well, look at the law.
No, please, yeah, just 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
No, I was
2 minutes.
And encourage the Auditor General to do what is right. Encourage Yoko to do what is right. But you see, if we want to go the path of partisan politics, then we are also going to ask, from the MPP perspective, that did you plant the Auditor General? Is he your party member? As some people are speculating, would he have conducted himself the way he is always in the media if you were in power? Let's be careful. We are talking about institutions of state. We want to allow them to work. Something.
But I repeat. Sylvester,
sorry.
Who was an NDC
sorry,
appointee. So it answers
like
your
a minute more to go. Yeah. Sorry. And we are ending this here. We have to go to the next issue.
Don't worry.
No, Felix, stop.
It's just a small point that I made. That's all. It's okay.
And Sly went to court.
Yes, Sly prevailed.
And the court set it aside.
Yes, but
so why don't
at least he charged Sly.
If you ask him, you respond. If you ask him, you respond.
No, he should respond if you encourage him to.
No, but don't be asking him.
It may be rhetorical.
Finish up.
He doesn't need to.
Okay.
I kept quiet for him.
Okay, but it's a fact.
Please.
It's a fact that he said Charles
Felix, stop.
NDC
Felix,
member.
it's okay, stop.
At least you give me the chance to make my point.
Your time is
up. My point is that, well, if I shouldn't talk, I won't talk.
Go ahead.
The point is, Sly went to court to get the findings set aside. Why don't you encourage Mr. Domelevo, right?
Yeah.
To submit himself to the Yoko investigation.
But he's in court.
And no, doesn't mean that he shouldn't go.
But he's in court.
It doesn't operate as a stay on Yoko's investigation.
Right.
Please, don't confuse the public. I am saying that, why don't you encourage him? That, look, sir, please cooperate.
Okay.
You do so and expose them. Like you were saying that maybe something happening here, something happening here. So you think there's a possibility. You are not.
He says he's being intimidated.
You see,
his own words.
Kweku Bakun has made a point on that. I respect the Auditor General. He is doing a good work. But you should equally respect other institutions of state. Okay. Because the findings of PPA, the findings of the PPA were that there were procurement irregularities, there were breaches. However, they should proceed and make the payment because the supply has already been made. There's an argument here that, oh, he is not the head of entity. Well, I read it. I think I disagree. He is still the head of entity, except that he is not the one who presided over that entity tender committee that took the decision. These are matters he can raise in court.
Okay.
But I'm saying that for us to say, because Iyoko is because he has raised issues against Osafo Mafo, Iyoko is in there to persecute him. Okay. Iyoko cannot jail him.
All right.
He shouldn't feel intimidated.
All right.
He should allow the system to work.
Okay.
Now again, Samson.
Sorry, I'm sorry, but we are
no problem. No
thank
problem.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, but I've been asked to stop this long ago.
No, but it's unfair.
Okay, a minute.
Oh,
yeah.
I hope you give me a minute.
No.
Oh, but I've had a least time.
Sorry.
On the matter. I've had a least time on the matter.
See, AFAG, their agitation, their advocacy that this matter should be investigated by the Attorney General came up somewhere September 2019. Apparently, I'm sure they assessed the covering letter, the recommendation.
Of the PPA?
Yes. The investigation itself by PPA ended January 2019. This matter was already in the pipeline long before AFAG came in. So I'm unable to accept that the Iyoko investigation was triggered by AFAG's advocacy.
Okay.
It doesn't really.
So you disagree with the civil society
what
group?
Felix did was to invite us into the realm of speculation.
No, civil society, the civil society group, that's what they're saying.
All of them.
That we should not ignore that.
No, but it's all of them.
All right.
Conspiracy theories.
Which part of it?
I'm sorry.
You are not encouraging. You are not encouraging.
Okay,
us
sorry.
to argue.
So this is where we. This is where
speculation.
This is where we end this session. When we come back, we'll ask whether the referendum will happen or not, and whether it should be yes or no.
This is not you.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Just a couple of messages, and we go to ask the question whether or not the referendum should come on or it should not, and if it does, should it be yes or no? Now, this one said, Godfrey says that the Auditor General claims only OSP has powers to investigate procurement breaches. So why has he purported to investigate Osafo Mafo for procurement breaches and purported to surcharge him with the expenses made in violation of procurement law? Okay, so the Auditor General too is being asked back. This one, Godwin says, he says, as we speak, okay, he says, as we speak, Iyoko has exonerated Professor Avoke, but the University Council, based on some of these alleged procurement infractions, proceeded to interdict him. Today, the University Council is unable to restore him. That's how the system can fail you, but that's where you should end
for the
it.
records,
then
this matter is in the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Yes.
Then
so
why?
The person shouldn't worry.
Okay. YK Answer Ebua says, "What is AFENYO-MARKIN talking about? He thinks because people don't go to law school, they can't reason along law. With all due respect, this notion that some lawyers come to your show to try and silence everybody. I'm not sure he's trying to silence everyone.
Educating.
Okay. I'll find time and see if I can share a bit more of your messages. Our production will allow me to continue. All right. So, on this segment, of course, we have Nilante van der Poy, Odododio MP, representing the NDC, of course. He's come to replace Felix Kwachi Ofosu. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you, too.
Thank you very much. And also here in the studio is Andrew Bediako. He's administrator of, is it NALAG? Yep. Yes. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Great. Okay, so very limited time. Let's start with you, Andrew. Now, can we look at from this perspective where people say suspend, cancel? Dan Botwe came forward and said, okay, I would not support suspension, I would rather support withdrawal. There are those who say, why do you want it to be cancelled? Allow the people the opportunity to go there and let's settle the matter once and for all.
Thank you very much, Samson. I use this opportunity to greet your viewers. Before I proceed, the National Association of Local Authorities of Ghana, in short NALAG, is the mouthpiece of all the MNDAs in Ghana, specifically the Metropolitan Municipal District Chief Executives,
right?
Then the presiding members and the honorable assembly members. As we speak, the assembly is dissolved, so our membership as it stands now is to that of the Municipal Metropolitan District Chief Executives.
Okay.
So within the mandate of NALAG, one of our aims is to propose alternative policy and legislative options for the local government sector that will ensure a more effective implementation of the 1992 Constitution provisions on the decentralization and local government. So this whole exercise and the debate is within the mandate of NALAG. So people who have the notion that NALAG has taken a position on this, Samson, the whole thing started. I think we don't have much time to go into all those things because we have a lot of things to talk about. With regards
of course, this matter is a matter we will discuss until perhaps the referendum, the 17th.
Okay. Yeah. So talking about people who are proposing that maybe the whole referendum should be suspended, we are also looking at it from other angles. One, if we postpone the elections, when are we going to have it?
Exactly. The Electoral Commission said we can't have it in 2020. It doesn't have.
That's right. We think this is the greatest opportunity for we all Ghanaians. If we let it go, it will be very difficult for us to get this exercise back.
Okay.
If my memory will serve me right, it will be like the same. I know you are a lawyer in the RUPA issue and all those kind of things. You see, the RUPA, let's look at when the law was passed and we look at the implementation as it stands now.
13 years ago.
Yes. So we don't know, and referendum normally is not like all the time that maybe 4 years, every 4 years we can have an general elections, either parliamentary or presidential. So if we let this go, it will be very difficult. But the issue here is that, are we Ghanaians for the elections of MNDCs or we are not for it? If we are for the elections of MNDCs, then we should look at the 2431, that one in parliament, and the 55-3, both together. Because as soon as Parliament amend the 2431 as it stands now, it becomes part of local level elections. And when it becomes local level elections, definitely it will be part of our district assemblies elections, the unit committee elections. And the proposal as it stands now is that if we want to have this kind of elections, then the people are saying, let's look at only the 2431 and forget about the 55-3. To us, we think it cannot work in that way. Yes, because when you do that, then the question is, how are you going to organize such elections without the involvement of our political parties? Unless we want to continue to be hypocritical as we have been. Because MPP, NDC, CPP will not sit down for you to go and have elections at the local level to elect MNDCs that without their involvement. If the law is not allowing them as it stands now, they will still be there.
Okay.
Because what we know as practitioners, because we are the ground, it's not people who are always at the top down, it is not political, it's not. As we speak now, our local level elections is political. Something, it will interest you to know that just recently, NALAG had a nationwide sensitization program that we wanted to push women who want to become assembly members into our local level elections. After the nationwide training and all those kind, we decided that we will support some of them. When we were ready to remit whatever we have to them, we decided to call them for their bank accounts. When you call the person, women, they will tell you, oh, uncle, I've stepped down. Then you ask, why? And the party said I should step down for the man to go, else we will lose the seat to other MPP or NDC. And I said, but you people said the local level elections is non-partisan. So why would a party call you and say, that is the decision of the party to have stepped down?
Okay.
Some of them are still having their accounts numbers with us that we cannot even transfer the money to them for them to do other posters and all those kind of things because the party have forced them to step down. So if you want to go the same way, people are saying, let's have the elections. And when we have the elections, what will happen is that let us have it as we have the district assembly elections.
Just a second. AFENYO-MARKIN and Neil and Tevanda, why are you laughing? Tell us, why are you laughing? Look, they burst into laughter when he spoke about party whip happening there. Yeah.
That is a reality.
Okay.
That's a reality.
That's a reality.
He's speaking the truth.
Okay.
We whipped our people.
That's why you are laughing.
Yeah, but all of them know this is true and I know it.
They've done primaries and they've selected their people.
We train our people.
Yes.
Right.
You step down. He knows.
Yes.
His party in the foot, maybe in national they are not doing.
Okay.
But he knows. The foot they did is a step down. We know.
And as a lawyer, you did not take up shit.
No, but it's a party. Well, it's a party. This is not legal matter. It's political matter.
If a good
No, but they
citizen
go
will see
without
somebody
the card.
infringing the constitution.
No, it's not infringement of
The
the
constitution doesn't say you can't do it
clandestinely.
clandestinely.
We are saying
the constitution said that politicians should not get involved.
Okay, so what we are doing is that we are encouraging the law says you can't go with a party card. You are not using party.
You can't sponsor.
But if we are, what is that purpose? We are encouraging.
The constitution.
No, you are not. It's not the party. But you are encouraging.
You are sponsoring.
We are encouraging.
You are sponsoring.
The truth is that
in
my Kojo Bedu,
the law says you shouldn't sponsor. You shouldn't endorse. You shouldn't campaign. You shouldn't campaign for or against. And they shouldn't use anything about your.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean as MP I can't go to an area and encourage. If two people are saying, Erasmus, you step down for an Asante. I can't say that Osimesi step down for this.
So what will be the
if somebody is following,
if
somebody is following a busybody and somebody is also following a certain umbrella, and I say, look, you step down for this person. What is wrong? There's nothing wrong. If I say we want proper leadership, we say this one is in a better position. I'm not surprised. And all these people belong to political parties. Yes. So I'm not surprised that they can't even get account.
You want to say most of them, not all of them.
Oh,
because some of them you see their posters.
Then we call them independent.
They clearly,
those people, they say they are independent candidates. Okay. When they go around,
all right.
Our party people asking you, you want to be assemblyman. Are you going to fight honorable or you are with honorable? They will ask you. Are you with MPP or NDC? We know your party affiliation.
So there's no chance for them?
No, you are not likely to win.
Because you are standing as an independent?
Yes. You are not likely to win. You are not likely to win.
Oh, but why?
So that is why we are encouraging our friends that they know that in reality we are all. Didn't General
But one of the arguments for the one of the arguments one of the biggest arguments for the yes campaigners is that it will also encourage independent people to stand. So why are you now saying
it will be an opportunity for them?
An opportunity.
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't reflect in Parliament though. The independents.
But the independent, if you can, which side would you be? Because you have to belong to a side.
So there will not be room for independents.
No, in our constitution, in national parliament, there's no room for that. Is there? You can't come and say you don't belong to either side. You either belong to the left
so you don't
or
agree,
right. Or Mrs.
You don't agree to this side of the yes campaign that says if you make it partisan, independents too can contest and they will. And then even the smaller parties that they will win some of their seats.
But certain arrangements, you can belong to one or the other.
I know that in Parliament. Let him just finish this.
Boss, if you go to India, it's partisan right at the grassroots.
Okay.
If you go to the United States, even attorney general positions, judges go with their card. They be, these judges are Republican.
You are talking about federated states.
Federalism. So wait, I'll come to you. I'll come to you. Just wait.
Whichever way, it's a democracy.
All right.
Whether unitary or federation, it's democracy.
So should
if
it be?
Go to the UK,
should it be postponed or suspended or cancelled?
Well, I have heard very senior members in government saying something. Dan Boche is a very senior person.
There's another minister in the presidency, Kokofi.
Yes. And when
why don't they want us to vote?
I think the NDC is complaining of lack of consensus. They say we've not reached out to them. So I'm sure the form and shape of reaching out, if they make it known, we would meet them halfway and look at it. You say you are not against
the deputy information minister says that the president has asked for a lot more consultation.
Even National House of Chiefs, there's division there. There's chaos everywhere.
Yesterday, the Asantehene seemed to have suggested that, you know, consultation has not gone on the chiefs.
So everywhere there is a problem. The religious front, we have not heard them. So perhaps it's appropriate to put it on ice. Perhaps. So that we put, because we must build consensus on this.
Why is the voting not part of the consensus building? We go there and show whether we like or we don't like.
No, but we must guide the path we are choosing. We must guide it. The NDC says in principle, it is not against
the election of the NDC.
Yes, it is not.
It's the
but
partisan.
Its worry is that, oh, we didn't reach out. I listened to their general secretary on CTFM.
Right.
We didn't reach out to them. They brought out some suggestions. We didn't take it on board. To me, we should sit together because we are the main actors. And unless my senior brother here will decide not to talk about NDC as a party and its involvement in this Judicial Assembly elections.
I think they are not just talking about, they also have the question about if you want to elect MMDCs, that's a separate question. Why are you going to attack Article 55.3 so that the assembly members and the unit committee members will also have to be elected on partisan basis? At the moment, they are elected on non-partisan basis.
So are they saying that for the MMDCs, it should be partisan? But for the assembly members
and unit committee,
we should not introduce party there when already we are all doing it. We are doing it. At this point, why? They know.
Okay.
Yeah, something the assembly is
wait, I'm coming. Wait.
Something.
It's partisan,
yes, on that
but
point,
not formally.
Yes, it is partisan.
Thank
the
you.
assembly. I've been an assemblyman before. I've been a presiding member.
Okay.
And I know the posture of members.
Oh, so you started from the bottom.
Yes. You see, let me tell you now, in Winneba, Efutu, we have 18 assembly members. 13 of them are MPP, 5 of them are NDC.
Okay.
All these years, none of them, there are 5, they don't come to me. Even if I'm sharing bobs and I call them, they won't come. At the assembly, they group. When decisions are being taken, they group. They are 5. In opposition, their boss, when they were going to elect MMDC, MCE, they came to us that MPP for 13, we need your vote. And here's more, we gave it to them. You know, round 1 they lost, round 2 we gave it to them. In all the doings, when we're electing presiding member, the 5 NDC members voted against the candidate.
Okay.
We know what goes. I've been a presiding member.
Thank you.
In 2006, when I first went to the assembly, we were only 3 MPP against 16. At that time, we were all 15 against 12 at the time. In 2010, it became 9-9. In 2015, it became 13-5. So we know, and they know. So, to me, if we now want to lift the veil and allow what we've been doing, you know, backdoor, and get it done properly.
What you've been doing unlawfully, unconstitutionally.
No, backdoor.
Okay. Secretly, yes, Nilante.
Something.
Yeah.
How did we get here? We got here because
normally. Sorry. So you were saying that we should, is it postpone for consultation, or like Damboche says, if we want, we should just withdraw it rather than postpone?
Well, withdrawal, postponement, cancellation, all of it would perhaps give an opportunity for further consultation.
So you don't choose
further
any
consensus. All right, whichever path we choose, it means that the election will not come on that 17th. Would only do the unit committee assembly.
And EC says they can't do it in 2020.
They cannot do it.
Yes.
Yeah. And so they do it another time.
Okay.
Yes, something. How do they get here? You see, a referendum must have a clear-cut issue at stake, where there will not be any ambiguity for the voter to be able to determine what he's asking, because it's asking a question. So, at this particular juncture, what are we talking about? One, we want that authority, that power, that mandate that the Constitution gives the president to be seated away from the president in order that we can elect MMDCs. That is a cross of a matter. During the constitutional review and everything, the issue has been on election of MMDCs. It has never been on the politicization of district level elections. I remember very well, as far back as 1992, Professor Dubois raised this issue about the need for electing of DCs. It was trumpeted by a lot of the political. I remember the one who also took it up so seriously was Pakwesi Indom.
Because he was also an assembly member.
Assembly member before. I was an assembly member. Yeah. So the issue has always been the constitutional review look at the issue of election of MMDCs. And then politically, what we should all understand that we've gotten to a time in this country, the dynamics of the time when the constitution was formulated, and when we started the district assembly, the decentralization process in 1988, it was apparent that politicization of the assembly system, the local governance system, was going to affect us as a people. If today we're thinking that there is a need for us to change, first, the issue at stake is election of MMDC. So why don't we deal with it? When we have dealt with it.
But that is in Parliament. Article 243.
Yes.
One is in Parliament.
That is what we are talking about.
So
that's what I'm saying that.
It doesn't look like in the House you are suggesting you are even ready to.
No, we have. In fact, what is left with the Speaker is with the Speaker to put the question.
And but he's not putting it because they cannot be sure that you give your support.
No, the issue has to do with the fact that some people were saying that, look, why don't, it's not just about 243.
Right.
Why don't you bring all these other consequential legislations? So I will take it as a goal. Then when we are finished, we have enough time, because when we even take this decision, it's not going to be implementable today. So we can have enough time now to exhaustively look at the modus operandi to operationalize the other aspect we are talking about, that is politicization of the listing. If we don't do that, the people will think that there goes the politician again. They want to have everything to themselves. You know. But when you look at the Constitution, various articles in the Constitution goes to entrench the issue of the need for us to make local governance non-partisan. And so you just not looking at 55(3) and just go ahead with it. You understand? So we think that there's a need for us to critically look at what is at stake. So let's put the issue of this referendum aside.
You referred to the Constitution Review Commission. When they went around the country and collated loads of views on the MMDCs, they said that there was an overwhelming majority that wanted DCs
to be
elected but non-partisan. And that there was almost an equal number that wanted them elected on partisan basis. And therefore, in future, Parliament should be allowed to amend Article 248. 248,
yes.
1 and 2.
Yes.
So that that process can happen.
Yes.
Don't you think we have come to that future since the Constitution Review Commission finished its job?
Well, I don't think so, because a lot of people, you just said it, a lot of people also have the opinion that it could be a dangerous slip to go. So once that is out, that's what we are talking, that's why and everybody now says that then we must build a consensus. Those who are having the fears, how do we allay their fears? Those who think that, look, we've gotten to a level of that, they should be able to convince people like me, like he's trying to do now, why there is a need. But all this issue has basically been on the hypocrisy of the politician. But that is, I believe that is not enough reason and conviction for me to say let's politicize. Because I've been an assembly member before, I've been a deputy minister of local government before. I can also tell you that the dangers inherent in politicization of local governance overweighs my conviction on the issue of hypocrisy. Because something, one of the most terrible things I have seen is when party foot soldiers get up and go and throw a DC out of office because they don't like him. DCs are appointed. When you ask them their loyalty, they will tell you their loyalty is to the party and the president. Meanwhile, by the system, your loyalty by the Constitution itself Loyalty should be to the people who you are serving by the Constitution itself. So we need to sit down critically and look at it. So I'm saying that if we all agree that election of MMDC is a good thing, a good step forward, let's take that one first. When we have looked at that one, then procedures to safeguard the system will also be looked at. Because we cannot just get up and say that because people, even though it's illegal, have been abusing it, so let's legalize it. And I am surprised that people like Afenyo, who is a lawyer, will be one of the people who will be touting that.
Okay. Okay.
Interesting. We know it's wrong. But let's
so the NDC already. Sorry. The NDC already at your press conference said it should be withdrawn, or you are asking people to vote no.
Yes.
So where are you now?
If people vote no, then we can go back again. If we still think that it's tenable tomorrow, we can look at it.
Okay. So if people vote no, you will still pass Article 24.
No, I will even want.
Amendment.
I will even wonder when we go to Parliament on Monday, we should even put the debate on the budget aside. Let's look at 243.
Okay, and you make DC is elective.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Koku. Well, you started the postponement or whatever long before all these other people came to join.
That's right. 2431 is off. It's been on the order paper for almost 2 weeks.
Right.
Last Thursday and Friday. It wasn't there.
No, it wasn't.
Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Until the business committee brings it back, you cannot deal with it.
Yeah.
So Monday you go there, there'll be nothing there for you.
But Bombi, that is what I expect people like you to do, to put pressure on leadership of Parliament to bring it back. Bombi, you understand? I would expect you to put pressure on leadership of Parliament to bring it back.
But also, I must say that the leadership may not be too sure that you will give your support, because the majority alone cannot get the vote to do it. Yes, Koku?
See, my good friend, we go back. We've done all sorts of diabolical things before.
Today I was just remembering the day we used to work, the time we used to work from Carnation Sports Conference to Labone.
That's right. Ani, you were at a meeting, an IDEC meeting, 25th October 2019. You were there?
Yeah, at Kempiski.
And you know the compromises and consensus you guys came to. July 29th in Parliament, your leaders canvassed for the 2/3 2431 to be dealt with, as much as for 55-3 on record.
Yes.
This was July.
Yes.
In actual fact, the minority leader made it clear that 55-3 was even more important. It's here. It's in the answer. Am I right?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening.
And when you attended the October 25th meeting, this is a summary of the key decisions taken. The initial positions were this. The 3 positions on the sequencing, operative word, sequencing of the amendment of Articles 2431 and 55-3 that were articulated at the meeting. I'm reading.
But they said they have changed their mind.
But that is why...
Are they not entitled to have a change of mind?
You see, change your mind, give us the reasons why you've changed your mind.
They gave a tall list in their press conference.
When you check the reasons, then you see how dubious they have been. Sorry, that's the wrong way.
Sorry, allow him.
That's
not the individuals, but the party.
Guys, allow
position,
to go.
But it's even not the right word. I'm sorry. I think that they've been inconsistent. So
opportunistic.
Forgive me for the word I used earlier. See, the position was this. 1, amend 2431 now, and amend all related with provisions later after the national referendum. That was the position of the MPP at that meeting. 2, amend 2431 together with all related provisions in the Constitution, either before or after the national referendum. But the focus now should be on Article 55-3, the NDC's position. Oh yes,
I was there.
But then IDEC are lying.
I was there.
See, that is your position. And then they said 3, amend 2431, but initiate concrete processes to amend all related provisions. Compromise position for the meeting. But your position was clear. And it's even in the Hansard of 26th July,
right.
where your
don't
leader was insisting that you must take out, deal and cure the mischief.
He was
55
playing in Parliament. We played him last week. Yeah.
So there's no, and then they came to consensus.
I
Let
was
me
at a
read.
meeting, so I wanted to have the discussion.
I think if you don't let us argue over it, it's better because your people have told us that this is a change of mind.
Yes.
And you are entitled to change your mind. Is that also?
No, see, the change of, God, we don't have time. And that's what pushed me to go and use that harsh word.
They say after consultation and deeper reflection, we shouldn't politicize the process.
You know, referendum, if you know the architecture, the Constitution provides 40% out of the registered voters should go
75%.
out. 75%. You can't do those things on basis of partisanship if you really mean business.
Definitely.
You need to aggregate. Hence, the regional ones, NDC's position was yes. MPP, yes. These are two main political stakeholders in the country who will go out and campaign. If you want to put so much public funding and effort, intellect, and everything into a project called referendum, to do what the amendments envisage, you can't do it unless you have unity at the core. Right. And they had given the impression they were for it and went through serious meetings, including the House of Parliament, going together. So everybody knew that once you have these two parties and all others coming on board, you are bound to get the 40% out and get the 75% out of the 40%. Once they pulled out at the time they pulled out and asked that no should be the campaign message, you're not going to get, you're not going to get that thing.
It's very difficult.
And that is why I said, forget it. It's not worth it. We've spent money already. We've dissipated our intellectual energies already. But honestly, you won't get the 75%.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
If you permit me, I will just make a
30 seconds.
Kwaku, you see, this particular meeting you are talking about here.
30 seconds.
Ask them. There was a caveat that the NDC's final position still lies with consultation with the party executive.
Oh, but you didn't let me to read.
Yeah, look, so at that moment, all of that, me, I deferred from the leader.
Oh, at the meeting?
At the meeting. I had a different opinion.
So confusion.
My committee, the local government committee, had a different opinion from the leader. Mutaka has a different opinion.
8 of them.
Look, and then Ayaga also had different opinions.
See, Ayaga was in there.
Ayaga was there. Ayaga was there.
There were nine of you were there. 9 from the minority side.
Dominic Rapari.
Okay. And you went along
sorry, but we have run out of time.
We asked for consultation.
Yes, Andrew. Yes.
Samson, to the best of our knowledge, we at NALAG, there is no way we can have the 2431 done without touching the 55-3 for us to have any successful elections in this country. So if we are dropping it, that means we are dropping.
So case closed.
That means the president will continue to hold his powers, and we have the status quo.
Thank you. Thank you. So my guests have been
on ice.
Yes.
My guests. No, you are not the president, and all of you are not the electoral commission.
You are not the president.
Because if you go that way, there's no.
My guests have been Alexander Kwamina AFENYO-MARKIN-MP, Futu member, Public Accounts, Defense and Interior Committees of Parliament, Andrew Bediako, Administrator, National Association of Local Authorities of Ghana, NALAG, Felix Kwachio-Fosu was with us earlier, former Deputy Communications Minister and NDC parliamentary candidate for Ebura Asebu, Kwaman Kesi, Ebura, okay. Abdul Malik Kwekubako is editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. And earlier also we had Yao Edu Poku, rice outgrower, farmer, processor based in Longoro, Kintampo North, Bono East, producers of Daigo Prime Rice. I'm Samson Ladia Yenini. My outfit as always is by Latida. Have a good afternoon.